And I just want everybody to notice how nice council's looking tonight. They got their formal council picture. So thanks for your extra efforts. You always look nice, but tonight is extra nice, I suppose. And sitting up on my desk here are 2 awards the town has just received. At the 2023 Annual Awards of Excellence, at the 2023 EDA Experience Leaders Summit and Conference, the 2023 Annual Awards of Excellence that honor Alberta individuals for their contributions to the profession, as well as Alberta communities for excellence in 4 categories were presented. And on my right, I have the Alex Metcalf Award. It's an award that celebrates the best of the best in each community size. We're a small community regional project. And on my left, the opposite to everybody here, is the Innovative Approach to Economic Development Award for a small community region population under 25,000. And what garnered us these elite awards, valued awards, treasured awards, is our Project 52 People and Places, a website and social media campaign that highlighted Didsbury-based businesses and individual residents with the goal of bringing the community closer together and providing insights into what makes Didsbury a great place to live and do business. Interviews with residents who are making an impact in the community through their work or volunteer efforts, as well as business owners, new and established, who are providing needed goods and services to Didsbury and surrounding areas. The stories of these people and places were shared on the town website and linked to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. The highlight of each piece was why Didsbury. What do you like best about living, doing business in Didsbury? At the start of January 2022, the project was introduced with this wording: stories are vital to our local culture, from lifelong Didsburians to those who are brand new to town. Through this project, we sought to discover what makes our community special while highlighting the people that contribute to it. Local businesses not only impact our local economy, but also the small town charm that we as Didsburians enjoy so much. I want a special mention. Congratulations, Lisa Vastrash has a big part in this. She was one of the creative writers who wordsmiths so well, and she's trying to ignore me, I know. She's not even looking at me. She's right there by the camera. Our communications coordinator, Jared Hartman, who was our past communications coordinator that was part of this. Jared's dad, Gene, helped out for a little while, but they have such exceptional storytelling and creative abilities in featuring people and places for our beautiful town. You brought them to life. There are just a few comments that were made. I just have to say them. This project, the feedback it got: raising community spirit, great plan, looking forward to hearing more about my neighbors. Very excited. We have so many amazing residents and businesses in town that make our community so special. Another comment: I'm learning so much about people and businesses, things I didn't know before. Thanks for doing this. I also want to thank Alexa Ross, our EDO, at the end, with beautiful silvery white hair, for getting the project submitted for consideration and for your recognition of its contribution to Didsbury's people and places, and definitely to our character and appeal. And thanks to everyone, council, all the administrative team, for the talent in our town departments and for the ongoing support of such great projects of this that garner these awards for our beautiful community. And I think this is just fantastic news for our town. And these, they could stay here, or I'm sure Lisa or Alexa or someone can find a very visible place for them for people to take a look of all that Didsbury has done through this Project 52, Peoples and Places. It's still on the website. You can find it. Just search the words, and you have 104 stories you can read if you haven't read them already. I encourage you to do so. So with that, I'd like everybody to clap for Lisa. all of council go next year to help celebrate with you. So it's a busy convention that fills up fast. So tonight we have adoption of the agenda, and I believe it's just an amendment that would put 8.10 up to 8.2, and everything moves down. And is there anything else, Ethan, that you have, or Ethan Gordon? Oh, okay. So I'll have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councilor Windsor?
Aaron, can you clarify exactly what the amendment is?
8 it's not 8.10. Yeah, it is 8.10, DP 23-020, change of use DC in direct control district industrial moves up to 8.2. So that we, as much as Leanne wanted to sit and listen to our meeting tonight, as she always does, we just offered that she could go home and enjoy the beautiful sunshine and maybe the hockey game, I don't know. But I think it's the sunshine she was after. So that's the amendment. All right, Councilor Windsor, call the vote, all in favor? It's carried. So, we are happy tonight to welcome back Lisa Nicholson, founder of Hope for MVC Kids Society. And I think the last time we saw Lisa was in 2019, so we're happy to see you back again. And I don't know if our chambers has changed a bit since you've been here, but if it hasn't, that's the speaking table, the speaker's table right there. And I think you know how to turn the mic on, you just press that.
There we go.
Look forward to hearing all what's new.
Well, thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me this evening. The purpose of today's presentation is to really, I know some of the existing council members are aware of what we do, but new council members may not know about our organisation, and we really rely on people like you to spread the message throughout the town of how we can help residents of Didsbury. We also are very excited, and I'm doing the rounds because it's our 10-year anniversary this year, and we've been helping and supporting families for a whole decade, and so we're very, very proud of that. So first slide, please. So for those that might not know who we are a non-profit society, a registered charity, completely, entirely run on volunteers. Every single person on our board and our entire volunteer base, including myself, do not get paid for the extensive work that we do in the community. Many of us put in 500, 600, 700 plus volunteer hours to make sure that this organisation continues to grow and run and operate. So why do we exist? So back in 2013, like most good or bad ideas, it started off with a bottle of wine. So fundraising had taken place in the community of Carstairs for my daughter Hope, hence the name Hope for MVC Kids. We required a therapy pool. Back in 2012, we were going and commuting to the Alberta Children's Hospital every single 2 to 3 times a week for hydrotherapy, and it was recommended that she had her own pool to save us that commute, and so we could do her exercises at home. We just mentioned to a few people in the community, word spread like all rural amazing hearts that happen in community, and before GoFundMe pages, coffee cans were dispersed in the gas station in Carstairs, and word spread. And quickly, Hope's story was shared of her medical journey and what she'd endured. A little bit about my daughter Hope, she has cerebral palsy. She spent 2 years in and out of her first 2 years of life in intensive care and had several cardiac arrests and had an intensive medical journey, and then had a declining medical story at age 6, which is when this support happened. The community responded in such an unbelievable way. Just going to the local gas bar in a week, $1,500 in cash was put in there. So it really didn't take Carstairs very long to fundraise 15,000 towards the 20,000 that we needed for the pool, and we were blown away by that. And then talking with my friend, she also had a background working with children in medical need and special needs children, and I too was also involved in that line of work. We both saw a gap, both for children, families raising children in medical needs, obstacles. Community's really great in an immediate situation. We react and we help and support. But one thing we do find though is if a child is needing medical support long term throughout their entire lifespan of the journey, it's very, very hard to keep asking out of the same pot or keep asking for the community to respond. So we knew that there was gaps, and so following that we had one bottle of wine and we were fed up, and we decided to invite residents in the town that we all know in rural Alberta exists, that volunteer at everything, don't say no to nothing, and we pitched them the idea of we wanted to fulfill these gaps. So that's how it started. A group of like-minded individuals came together. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into at all. We had no idea the work that was involved or what it would mean, but it was created and it's grown to be fantastic, I feel, but I could be a little bit biased of what we've managed to achieve in 10 years. Hope for MVC Kids is now based just 10 minutes away from Didsbury. It's not based in Carstairs, and it's been there for around 8 years of that 10 years. And so yes, this really, many of our board members have personal or professional experience with children with medical challenges, and we run on drive, determination, love and hope for local children and families to get the supports they need when they need them most. And 100% of the donation go to improve families, and operating costs are paid from grants. So again, we've gone above and beyond to really ensure that our donated dollars, unless specifically an organisation or a business has come to us and said that we can use them for operating costs, other than that, donations go straight to family applications. Next slide. So our mission is based on foundation of compassion, and we strive to pay it forward by providing support to those families with children in need across Mountain View County, and our vision is supporting families with children in medical need. Just gonna take some water. So what do? We have 6 key programs. One thing that we often think about is, what if today your life is going on as normal and then all of a sudden you're working and your child suddenly becomes sick, and that can either be short or long term. How are you going to be able to financially keep the stability? There's no insurance for things like that. I mean, we do have employment insurance if it is a terminal diagnosis, but if it's long-term sickness, your whole life can be turned upside down. So we wanted families to have to not worry about the financial implications of a long-term or short-term hospitalisation, and just be able to concentrate on the wellness of the child, which we wish we could make the child better, but this is second best to that, so we can remove that financial. So Programme 1, we help if a local child is hospitalised for any reason, and that can be something as minor as an appendicitis to something as more severe as cancers, long-term admissions following a road traffic accident, premature babies, any reason whatsoever. We assist the family in the following ways: car parking, meals, food, and sibling care, and sibling care. And if it's a long-term admission, if families are really at risk of not being able to pay their utility bills, their mortgages, their rent, we do assist during that time. So families, as again, if you imagine, a single mum and all of a sudden her child is sick in the hospital, small businesses can often support their worker maybe for a month, maybe 2. But if this is spanning on months or maybe even years, small businesses can't afford to do it. So unfortunately, very often we'll find that families will find themselves to choose between being at their child's bedside or going to work. So we have had the situation where, to alleviate that pressure, we've paid for rent and mortgage and utilities for families during that period of time so that they can concentrate on that child. Number 2 is the adaptive equipment. So that's for home or school that's not covered by other sources. So if a medical professional recommends something for a child, that can be an iPad as a communication device. We've done things like vision reader pens, or we've even helped out schools. So a child needed an adaptive swing in Holy Trinity. We purchased the sit swing for Holy Trinity so the child in the wheelchair could actually go out and play with the rest of the children and join in just like everybody else. So again, we have provided adaptive equipment for either home or school, whatever that child might need. Programme 3, home adaptions. One thing I'm extremely passionate about is accessibility. And when we think about accessibility, we often think of the community, the built environment, transportation. But one thing that people really struggle with is their home is not accessible to them. So you're suddenly now with a child who's suddenly now maybe wheelchair bound. That might be temporarily, or it might be permanent. So now how do they access the home? We do have in Alberta some government programs, but they're very often based on low income. So again, if you're already having to maybe take time off work, that low income isn't going to be recognised on your tax return for another year or two, so you're not going to be eligible. So Hope for MVC Kids, we've provided ramps, we've provided tracking, we've provided funds for widening doorways, bathroom adaptions. We've helped, again, not covered by other sources. Next one. Sorry, you're already ahead of me, you're good at this. And then Programme 4, if we have a child that needs therapy, such as counselling, private OT, PT, mental health needs, alternative therapy is not covered by health insurance or other sources. This is one that we've seen a real increase on the last 4 years. As I always said, mental health was the pandemic before the pandemic even began. Now we've just added extra on it since the pandemic. We are seeing an increase in that. Quite often families will reach out, their child is suicidal, and they'll reach out to Alberta Health Services, and they'll get referred somewhere and been told that maybe it's 6 months. We feel that's not acceptable, so a family can apply to us for professional psychiatric counselling in the meantime while they're waiting for that. So we're really a fill in the gaps service. Alternative therapies that we've done, vision therapy has been one that we've actually seen 3 applications recently for that, really assisting families with that side that doesn't seem to be covered elsewhere. We've assisted with counselling through healing hooves, horse therapy. This is all guided by the medical professionals as well. Nothing that we do isn't supported by doctors and medical professionals. So we've also done something such as an individual who's suicidal but responds to music. So we actually pay for guitar lessons for the team as an outlet for their mental health. So anything that's kind of guided, again, that was recommended by by the psychologist. We will look at, and if we can make, as long as we have the funds available and it's been recommended by the medical professional, then we'll support it as a board. Programme 5 is another one that we saw an increase during the pandemic. Assist with prescription costs not covered by other sources. So again, we saw individuals losing their job, autism medications, ADHD medications, seizure medications can be $500 to $800 a month. You've just lost your job, oil and gas had a great, but Alberta Works won't look at prescription supports until we've seen a decrease on things like tax returns and stuff like that. So again, we saw families reaching out. So again, if there's a gap, it isn't covered currently with Alberta Health Services, or there's no other way to fund that. We had a family from Didsbury, and I can share this story, that for a seizure medication, And because the mum was injecting, the Alberta Children's Hospital taught the mum how to inject. It was a life-saving medication, but because it was injectable, was not covered by any medical benefits, and it was $1,000 every time that they needed that rescue medication. So it's things like that. So I always tell people, think of us as a fill-in-the-gap service when the CRA recognises us as a health organisation. So a fill-in-the-gaps health organisation for children is probably the best way that you can look at us. And the last one, so the program can assist local families with support, advocacy and information. Many of our board members, we've have a previous FSCD social worker on our board. We have families who have the lived experience of raising either a sick child or a child with a disability. And so you really learn how to navigate around that system. My professional life is also geared around advocacy. And so, obviously then a lot of it comes from assisting families with that knowledge of where they can go for other help. And I also think it's also been about informing families that they're not alone in their stories. Raising a child with needs, challenging needs, and mental health needs as well. Quite often, people don't want to share necessarily in community, and we've now become quite a safe space where people know that they can share their story and know that if they want to share, they can share, and if they don't want to share, it is safe within our organisation. So eligibility and selection, I do want to make it really a really strong point because we have had barriers for the name Mountain View County. I still have 10 years later this. Well, you don't cover families in Didsbury and you don't cover families in Olds, and that's not the case. It's any town in this boundary, so Carstairs, Didsbury, Olds, we still get families reaching out with the same, well, and I always see it on social media, well, you don't cover, well, we do. So, and our applications portray that. So if you are a town within Mountain View County, we do cover any family residing in that boundary. So if you can spread that word in any way that you know, that would be most helpful. The conditions that we support. So when we began our organisation, it took us, I think it was nearly 5 years for CRA to give us the registered charity status. They didn't know what to do with us. There was no other organisation like us in Canada. They wanted us to have an income component, but I wasn't going to put a price onto health. If families suddenly had a good job and then suddenly their child got sick, I didn't want to be a choice about income versus health. There was a lot of pushback and a lot of back and forth, and so they would ask me, what conditions do we support? And my response was always, and the board's response was, we're not medical professionals, we don't have doctors' letters after our name. So we're guided by what the medical professionals will tell us that what their guidance is. And so I sat down with the Alberta Children's Hospital resource team, and we wrote down this is just a few of their main clinics. And I sent them every single clinic, so any clinic that you can go to for the Alberta Children's Hospital and any condition that you can go to for the Alberta Children's Hospital, we will support as long as there's supporting medical documentation. So that we left it as simple as that, but it was quite an extensive list. So how funds are distributed, quite often I'll get asked about giving funds directly to families. Hope for MVC Kids does not give funds to families. The reason for this is for two main reasons. One, all of our community members, Hope for MVC Kids does not belong to me. It does not belong to the board, it belongs to community. That's what a non-profit society is. And so we wanted to make sure that if any community member donated, that they knew exactly where the money was going to. Now, I'm not saying that families would take that money and spend it elsewhere, but I have no way of tracking that. The other thing was tax implications for families. if you donate a certain amount, families are supposed to report it on tax returns if they get gifts and donations. So we didn't want any tax implications for families. So we've gone above and beyond to make sure that we can track exactly where our funds go and how are they distributed. So the car parking pass is really simple. We'll either buy the pass at the Children's or the Stollery, or if we can't obtain the pass, they get their prepaid Visa or MasterCard, and then they submit their receipt to show that it was purchased for car parking. Same with meals and gas. Accommodation costs, we work really closely with the Ronald McDonald House in Edmonton, Red Deer, and at the Alberta Children's Hospital. They just bill us directly if we have a local family. Same with hotels, if we can't fit them in the Ronald McDonald House, if they don't have space, a hotel will bill us directly. Rent and mortgage, we'll pay the mortgage provider. Sibling care, we pay the sibling care provider, and so on. Again, equipment, we will write the check or we will purchase the equipment. Van adaptions, for example, we might not be able to, we don't often have the funds to do the whole van adaption, but if we're contributing, we'll just purchase and write the check to the van adaption provider, and same and so on. So I won't go through the whole list there. So far, and this is inclusive, not including this year, and we do want to not really tell the full amounts because we have a 10-year gala coming up and we will be announcing everything on the night. But 85 applications approved to date, and I can say that I know that we've already reached over $250,000, and we are over 100 families since we started. Didsbury applications so far, when this was done, so up until last year, was over $50,000. Now that doesn't include families that have a rural Mountain View. They still have a Didsbury address, but they live just outside the town boundary. So if we were including them, we'd be way over that amount, but we will be announcing on the night at the gala exactly, we'll be counting down all of our families from 1 going all the way up, and showing what our final is, but I kind of wanted to show just for the town itself in the 10 years where we have been, but I know that has also increased from that amount. If you ever get the chance, go to our social media. Families don't have to share their story. It's not part of the application criteria, but if they are willing to share, it's way easier for our marketing because it's way better than my face, and the story does help spread the message for the families coming forward and also for donations. So each month we have a Family of Hope story, and I know we've shared it on some of the Didsbury social media too. Quite a few Didsbury families have shared, and so each month you can check out our Instagram and Facebook page and web page. So our growth predictions, as I said, myself and my friend at the time when we started this, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, and there has been times, I'll be completely honest, where we've wondered whether we could continue because it is such an immense amount of work, and we input such a lot, but we do truly believe in the cause. However, we aren't going to be able to continue if community doesn't keep stepping forward because of this growth prediction. The first year, I think we raised $15,000 and money went in and out. To compare to where we are now, 10 years later, it's a huge growth. So this year, we need $108,000 for our projected applications. November 2023-2024, if we see that projected 30% rise, will be 140. 2024-2025, 182,000. So we're seeing a 30% average. We were seeing that 30% average going up, then the pandemic hit, then it stalled our numbers a little bit, then we're seeing the increase back to that sort of trajectory. And with the COVID-19 recovery, we are anticipating to see more mental health support applications. And this is going to be way more than just a small charity run 100% volunteers. If we cannot support this growth, we just simply will not be able to continue. Some of our things that we've been proud of, so the Premier's Council Award in 2019, our organisation was recognised excellent in the community in rural Alberta. presented to an organisation that's made significant contribution to a barrier-free, inclusive community in Alberta, so that includes your town as well. And then we really want to continue to make Mountain View County and the towns within a barrier-free and inclusive community. The Alberta Readers' Choice Awards this year, we received the second and favourite local cause in Carstairs and Didsbury and Olds, and we've always fluctuated between 1, 2 and 3, so we're very grateful. We don't do it for the recognition, but why the recognition is important because it helps spread our message about what we do in community awareness. During the pandemic, we were nominated for the Northern Lights Volunteer, and we won that. We awarded in 2022 from the Alberta Government, recognising Albertans' everyday heroes, and the programme recognises those Albertans who volunteer. And I got the CTV Inspired Albertan in 2021 as well, so I skip over that because I don't do it alone, so I always think that that shouldn't be my name up there, so it says the organisation. So today really is making a message about that, but we're also really looking for support for our Decade of Hope event in November 2023. We are going to be putting on a tin gala. Tin is about bending and strength and resiliency. We thought that was a really great thing to celebrate because we've had to bend, we've had to grow and change with the county and the towns within it and the families. But we really want to celebrate all of those stories that we get to share. Over 200 children's stories. Now, some of them won't have a name next to them, but we're really proud that we've been able to help and support that many children and that many families. We have Martin Kerr. I don't know if anybody knows him, but he's doing it for a very reduced rate for us, so we're very grateful for that. Willow Lane Barn have gifted us their venue again. They did in the previous gala that we had as well. We would really love to see town representation from every town there, because we will have families from Didsbury there, so it would be great if some of you could attend. We are very grateful that I think it was the first year of COVID, you guys provided a grant of $1,000 that we haven't been able to spend yet to donate for volunteer tickets for the event. So we have that saved, and we will be providing that to some Didsbury families to share their stories and also volunteers for the event. But we would also love to see some representation there as well if you can attend. And so we do promise that to bring your dancing shoes as well as your Kleenex, because we think it will be a combination of fun and celebration and some really great stories of determination and strength in our community. And we'll also have sponsorship opportunities starting soon as well. So tickets go on sale next month. So we're not quite there yet, but we're nearly there. And we're always looking for volunteers. Again, we're completely run on volunteers, and then on the next slide there's just some ways that we just need distributing leaflets, we need community events, we need help setting up an event, take down, set up, anything like that. Anyway, we need, again, it belongs to Hope for MVC Kids. It's usually me that will show up, but it's a whole board of people and a whole team of volunteers that really are the heart and soul of this. And they are the people that, the invisible heroes wearing the capes, right? So, and then I think just really to really add that, Hope for MVC Kids, as I've already said, it does belong to the community, and it will continue as long as the community shows up, and supporting civil society organisations is crucial to community success. I would love to see board member applications from the town of Didsbury. We did have one board member previously. She's moved away now from Didsbury, and include more volunteers from Didsbury and AGM attendance as well. And we have seen some financial assistance from the town of Didsbury, which we gratefully appreciate. However, the need in town is greater than some of the input that we're seeing in terms of the volunteer base, so we're really relying on the message this evening. If you can, we really want to strengthen the forces as best as we can. We do struggle with awareness because we're all working and we all do this in our spare time, per se. We rely on the community members, such as yourselves, to spread the message about what we do. For the first time ever, I haven't had to lose sleep whether we're going to have the funds to fulfill the year. We actually have had some really great fundraising efforts in the last 6 months and contributions. And we're really, really grateful for the fact that right now we have funds. So if you know families that need us, tell them to reach out. And if you have anybody that's looking for volunteer opportunities, high school students, anybody like that, please send them our way. And that's it. That's me done. Thank you so much. And I'll open it up to questions as well.
Thanks, Lisa. Are there questions? I think with the thorough presentation we got, there would be very few, but you're certainly welcome. No questions? Thank you for an excellent presentation. It's nice to see you back.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For that, your gala that's going on, and all the best.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Successful year.
Thank you.
Again. Need a motion? Deputy Mayor? Bye. Thank you.
I move the council thank Lisa Nicholson, founder of Hope for Mountain Kids Society, for attending the council meeting and accept her presentation as information.
All right, I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? That's carried. That was a well put together presentation, I must say. All right, we have the April 11th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes. Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council move to adopt the April 11, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Any questions or comments on the minutes? Luann?
I would ask that Councillor Williams make it as amended on page 1 of the minutes. The adoption of the agenda I had as amended, but it was as presented.
That was because I started that and then I corrected it, but I'm sorry.
And then on page 4 of the minutes, under the correspondence, I have exemption for ERP programs, and it's actually EPR programs.
Just so people don't go looking for ERP. Thank you.
And finally, resolution 204 should say complaints.
Complainants.
Complainants of
Plural. Thanks for that. Will you amend that to amend it? Accept that amendment?
I'll accept that amendment, and I move that council adopt the 2023, April 11, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as amended.
Thanks, Lana, for that. Councilor McCoy?
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong minutes, but the adoption of the agenda has my name as moving it as amended. Is this an old agenda or an old?
No, I typed amended, it should have said as presented.
You made that motion.
But I made it. Okay. I just wondered why you were asking if he was in favor of amending.
Oh, because he made the motion to amend it.
You made the presented.
I mean, presented.
Not according to the.
No, just now.
Got you. Okay, I'm totally confused. Thank you.
All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have council reports for since April 11th to the date. And I'll start with Councillor Baswick.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I coupled the Water Commission had their general meeting and audit. Everything is running smoothly. No major issues. We're still getting great potable water to our community. We want to keep that happening. I had the opportunity to go to FCSS dance. And that was a really interesting and fun time. Ryan put on a good deal. It was sparsely attended, but it was the first one. And people should know that it's not just for mature people.
It's for amateurs.
Yeah, it's for immature people as well. And so I hope people, the next time, he's going to try to have 3 a year. And so we're hoping that perhaps people take advantage of that when it's advertised, because the band was great. It was, pardon?
Leaders.
Yes, later, but the lady, I'm trying to remember her name, Patty. Patty was her name. She sings well, and they had a guitar player that, God, makes you want to go and buy a guitar. The guy was so awesome. You know? Anyway, that's my report.
Thank you for that. And you made Facebook with that, you know that. You were front and center as the dancer team and your lovely wife.
That was accidental, sure.
Deputy Mayor.
So I don't want Councillor Baswick to buy a guitar. April 4th, Visioning Committee meeting, April 5th, PEC Committee meeting, April 20th, dialogue session, and April 20th also a strat plan meeting. I'll circle back to April 18th. Had a library board meeting, we did a budget approval. The library had a huge turnout for their Easter program this year. Attendees made a mini charcuterie, I think I said that right, charcuterie board. And 24 people attended that. Teen Takeover was extremely popular in March. 21 teens attended, watched the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, and ate pizza that was sponsored by one of our local businesses, Friends Pizza. The library is partnering with FCSS for a new seniors program on Friday mornings. A yoga instructor will teach a class for seniors. The Young Canadian Works grant was approved for the summer reading coordinator, and the Carstairs Legion donated $2,500 to the Didsbury Library. So a special thank you to the Carstairs Legion. Chamber of Commerce news, you can read this. It's in, well, I don't know if it's in yet, but the Chamber this year is partnering with the town, the library, the museum, and FCSS for Country Christmas. The date has been moved to December 2nd, and that was by request of the businesses. On Friday, December 1st, there will be a lighting up event, it's called, where trees, street lamps, etc. will be lit. There will be lights at the Toboggan Hill by the hospital, and hot chocolate served at the campground, as well as sites downtown for trees and hot chocolates. And on Saturday, between 10 and 4, will be Country Christmas will be taking place all over town. So there'll be criers, a family swim, family fun areas, sales and promos. And I'm just very excited to see these community groups getting together now to put on these events. It's very exciting, and it creates a really nice community spirit. So thank you to all you groups for coming together to put these things on as a group. That's all I have.
Thank you for that. Councillor Lewis?
Thank you, Mayor. On April 14th, I had a SPC meeting, and I'll report more on that later on in business items. We have a couple of business items that came from that meeting. On April 17th, we had a Didsbury Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting, which was great. That was the first one we've had in a little bit. I would like to welcome our new members, Karen and Sean. It's great to have them. At that meeting, we were presented with the 2 new awards, which you already spoke on, Mayor, which is amazing and shows the great work done by our administration. Also from that, the committee would like to see more regular meetings, so we are going to do a touch-up every handful of months on Zoom, and then also an in-person meeting throughout the year. And also, the committee would also like to see a more active presentation on social media by our economic development team. So we're gonna be starting up a Facebook page and that. So we already have a LinkedIn page, but we're gonna move that over to Facebook as well. So keep and share some good news like the awards that we get. And that is all I have to report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Waste Commission has just completed their audit. They had a clean audit that was approved at yesterday's meeting. The revised waste services agreements to remove recycling components from the agreements has been sent out to the member municipalities and with a response to come back or questions by June 1st. The service will terminate provided that the agreements are altered on July 31st, and there's been no feedback on that to date. The Waste Commission will be developing a pamphlet outlining the Commission's services and changes to the recycling components. And they are currently operating at a slightly above budget lines. RDR MUG, Red Deer River Municipal Users Group, they're currently undergoing their financial audit, and they will be presenting at the Red Deer Volunteer Community Organization presentations, which is kind of a forum, a full-day forum. It's actually 2 days long, a full-day forum where delegations from the communities, groups would come in and present to council in 20-minute segments. And so RDR MUG will be has been invited to make a presentation there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
Yes, other than the council committees, I went to a demo meeting for the Chamber of Commerce, which also the mayor attended, and I'm sure she has much better notes than I do on that. It was exciting to see, but I'm not really sure what it's going to look like yet, so I'll leave that one with you, and that's all.
I think it's a secret still, so.
So,
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not saying a word. I noticed Councillor Moore's EV Munis reports in our package, as is mine. So I won't speak to that. I will speak to the fact, though, that I just put a blurb about our Deputy Commissioner of RCMP, K Division, being there, but I was just listening the whole time and I didn't take any notes, so it was a really interesting presentation and lots of good information from our RCMP K Division. We joined us later at the hospitality suite, and we also got another 15 minutes of his ear chatting with him, so it was even better. I do want to say that the Central Alberta Mayor's Group that we're part of are having doing some lobbying and advocacy, and at the Alberta municipalities too. Town of Anoka presented an RFD, request for decision, about a lack of consultation between Alberta Health Services, the provincial government, and municipalities. And Central Alberta Mayors is working on this right now, and because they're representing the central zone on healthcare on a letter that's circulating and going to be presented to Minister Copping, we're a Calgary zone, so I just want to, I asked for the signed letter to come so we can endorse their initiatives, because it's, what Central Alberta Mayors is doing is wonderful. And they talk about needing to be included in the decision-making process when it comes to healthcare issues concerning our communities, which are currently being made almost exclusively and unilaterally by Alberta Health Services and the provincial government. And I know when I went to the roundtables that Minister Copping put on, it would have to be October, I guess, last year, that was one of the pledges he made, was to make sure municipalities are more aware of what's going on with their healthcare facilities and healthcare initiatives that are funded by the government and created and worked through with AHS. And we haven't seen that to date, but we do have a wonderful relationship with our local Alberta Health Services representatives that we meet with quarterly. And we just are continue to push for more information on our facility. We all see that big hole in the ground over there. But I know I mentioned some inequities a while back, and there was just more work done on that Central Alberta Mayors are talking about. And that per capita from 2008 to 2018, Central Zone received 107 million in health infrastructure funding, which is 228 per capita. South Zone received 1,500 per capita. North Zone received 2,000 per capita. Edmonton 1,100 per capita, and Calgary 1,600 per capita. So 228 is very, very obviously deficient. So really excited what Central Alberta mayors are doing, and Kevin, Mayor Ferguson, and all the mayors that are supporting that letter, because their zone is struggling with that. So I also wanted to note that I am going to FCM in Toronto in May, and I sat in on an EPR webinar, not an ERP, yesterday, and I didn't have time to put my notes together. That'll be in the next. It's really getting closer, the implementation of that program. So, and I had the opportunity. It's in our package, but I did meet with Heidi Lambie and our new manager Bethany last week to talk about their new pathway, and it's really exciting. It's really a beautiful concept, so I'm sure they'll bring it with them at their presentation. But it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and that's my report to you all. So I'll have if there's any questions of anyone. Otherwise, a motion to accept council reports as presented. Council Deputy Mayor, he pointed at you.
I move that council accept council reports as information.
All right, I will call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have the CEO report. And everybody had to have a couple hours to read this, so I know you all did. And if you have anything to add to it, I hope not, but go ahead if you do. No, you go. I would hope you're welcome to.
Now let me just get this other manual here. There's just as noted on the agenda, but maybe we do any questions first before that. But we do have our enforcement officer here to present verbally the Q1 municipal enforcement report.
Yes, we do. So why don't we call Luke up to do that, because then everybody can ask all the questions. And I might have missed that you said different, but well, I didn't want to belabor Luke's eager anticipation to get up to the mic and tell us all that's going on that's got to do with bylaw and protective peace officers. Hello.
Hello, good evening. As of you may know, I am Lucas Rond, Community Peace Officer with the town of Didsbury. And I've been tasked with giving the municipal enforcement statistics for the first quarter, so that's January 1st to March 31st, 2023. I'll keep it short and sweet. In total, we had 137 occurrences during that time, 60 of which were traffic, 19 were animal control occurrences, so that's in town, which is now the responsible pet ownership bylaw. We had 14 community standards bylaw occurrences, 10 snow removal related occurrences, and then 13 classified as other. And so these will include graffiti, Animal Protection Act, Assist Public Works, Assist RCMP, and Assist Fire. And lastly, we had 23 occurrences regarding Mountain View County animal control. And so those are the statistics for the first quarter for municipal enforcement. Next, I would like to make an amendment if possible. So with the RFD that sets out municipal enforcement's priorities for 2023, so referencing number 8.1 on the agenda, I'd like to change our priorities, if that's accepted.
Does that mean you're not going to wait till that item to talk to them?
Yep.
Like, whether you want to do that now or?
Either or, I'll let you guys decide.
Well, we can write it down for sure and have them. Is that what you prefer, Ethan?
I would say maybe we'll keep to the report for this part, and then we'll discuss what the priorities during that business item.
Okay, You can certainly mention them here.
Okay.
What your thoughts are, and then.
So my suggested amended priorities for 2023 would be, number 1 would be traffic enforcement. So that includes speeding, seatbelts, distracted driving, illegally crossed single solid line, and stop signs. Number 2 would be community engagement. I would like to give peace officers more opportunity to connect with the residents. And lastly, but not least, unsightly properties. And so that would be in reference to our community standards bylaw.
Did you take the animal part out of there? What is that? So what is it called, the pet?
Oh, the responsible pet ownership bylaw. So last year, that was in 2022 for our priorities, we had unsightly, responsible pet ownership enforcement, as well as downtown viability. So these are the new for 2023.
Thanks for that. And do you have anything else to add to your report?
No, that's it. Just short and sweet.
So you were really telling us, today was really short and sweet.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just figured I'd give the stats in terms of numbers of what we did and then also what acts or legislation they were under.
Okay, are there questions for Luke? Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm a little confused by the reports in the RFD in that it seems to me there are 6 pages that are a count of incident types, or maybe more than 6 pages, and I don't see a difference between them. I'm wondering if they're duplications or if they were monthly statements or...
I can answer that. We have a new reporting software.
You're waiting for that one, weren't you?
Yeah, we have new reporting software and we're having issues with it. So when we make our Q1 or Q2, Q3 quarterly reports, we need to work out the kinks in terms of getting those statistics. A solution that I've provided would be doing a daily, so instead of having the software keep track of our statistics for us. So essentially we have a reporting software where if I deal with an occurrence that day, I will add it into our software, whether it be ticket, warning, or verbal warning. And then from there, we have the ability to go into the back end of things and grab those statistics. But as you can see, it doesn't work great. We do have the correct number and what they're allotted to, but it gave us a lot more information than what we're looking for. So I want to simplify things and just at the end of every shift have a Excel spreadsheet where I do my daily patrol log, just so it's simplified. It'll just be the numbers that I need and nothing more.
Does that answer your question?
Not exactly, but I can accept that we'll see something different next time.
Councilor White?
Because yeah, if you look on it, it gives you like the time of date in which incidents occurred, how they were dealt with in terms of conclusion type, as well as what day they occurred, and that's just more information than you guys need. They were really in depth. They don't need to be that in depth.
That's a fair statement. I appreciate that. We can get nosy, that's for sure. Councilor McCoy?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just curious, I've forgotten, who is responsible for clearing alley entrances? Is it the neighboring property or is it the town? It's on the page 42.
That's for, we're just asking Luke questions right now?
That's a Luke question.
Is it a Luke question?
It's not something
Okay, sorry, I'm thinking it's, how it works clears the alleys. I'm not sure, okay.
So residents in town are responsible for clearing adjacent to their property. And so I can't speak directly right now in terms of how far that extends from each property. It would be case by case basis.
Are you planning on being a politician in the future? That was a great political answer.
Are there other questions for Luke? Councilor McCoy?
Maybe these are questions more directed at Nathan, so I can help, but they are still on Luke's report. Such as the timeline for street cleanup. I'd love to know that too. The grader that took the big chunk out of 22nd Avenue is still there, and my tire in the junk. I think that was it.
Do you want to answer those now, Wendy? I heard get them directed somewhere and bring the answers back. I don't know. I think this is a big report, and I'm not, maybe I'm confused that I didn't see that in police officers' report. In the prior CAO report, am I correct on that? Or was it just me?
No, maybe
What page
we'll
is it
finish the questions for the peace officer, then we can do kind of general,
on? Yeah, that's what I.
and then we'll have Craig speak to that.
Yeah, I think looking at the actual request page there, which is, we can direct to administration and the department that's responsible for it. Right, so hold those questions for that. I have a question, Luke, is why, now, dog control and dog barking, and it's been a big thing, and I see you're down the one complaint this quarter, not you, but that was submitted. Is that because it's winter, or is that because our bylaw is just working so well?
Honestly, we just haven't seen as many complaints in terms of dogs barking. We have seen some dogs at large recently that we've dealt with. But it's been 19 within the town of Didsbury from January 1st to March 31st.
Yeah, on your report, I guess I was looking at too, the action requests, so nobody.
In terms of action requests, if we do want to look at the actual report here with all the details that it gives, there is many methods of which we receive complaints. We honestly receive a lot of phone call complaints. That typically is how we're alerted to things. Action requests are the most convenient in terms of us as officers to deal with. However, we mainly receive phone calls.
And, okay, so I was confused, but yes, so our dog complaints are just as many. So I was just looking at that one sheet, but I did look at the actions that, or how many times you address dog issues. I'm thinking there's not a lot of cat issues that go on, they're mostly dogs.
We do have cat issues. One thing that I like to do, just because it's hard to try to catch a cat, first of all, when they're at large, is provide residents when it is warmer. So typically that's May to September. Provide residents with the opportunity to cat trap if they file a complaint and it's deemed necessary.
I guess what I was getting to was, why would we take, and your reasoning for taking that responsible pet ownership off of our priorities. So why, because if they're still high, I mean, we can put them back on, council, but is there a reason you think it's not still a priority? Because there are a high number on them.
There are a high number. Reason for taking it off is I just wanted to have new priorities to be set. Traffic enforcement's not something that's been done for municipal enforcement in recent years. So I wanted to, now that I'm fully certified and capable of doing so, just have that as a priority. In terms of community engagement as well, I wanted something just to be involved in the community a bit more. And then lastly, unsightly properties. We do have a number of unsightly properties within the town of Didsbury, and it's always good to deal with those.
I appreciate that all those, I appreciate your priorities, don't get me wrong. I just believe that responsible pet ownership is still out there, because I see people that are very angry about all the dog barking and all the interactions that are happening. So I appreciate that. Doesn't mean, maybe you were restricted to 3, I don't know.
That was kind of a self-imposed restriction, but I do want to note that in terms of enforcement of the responsible pet ownership bylaw, it will be enforced to the same extent, just even though it's not listed as a priority, it still is a priority.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you for that illegal turns across center lines downtown too. That is one of the best. All of them are good. Councilor McCoy has another question.
Thank you, Mayor. In the unsightly property focus, is there some focus on people who park their trailers in their yard and block the view of their neighbors for year-round? Because I know there used to be something about that.
So yeah, that is listed in our community standards bylaw.
Okay, so is that considered unsightly or not?
If they're adherent to our bylaw as it is currently written, then it's fine. So essentially, I don't have a response for you right now, but I can, if you would like an email response or a written response, I can send it to you.
Sure.
And how they need to adhere to that.
And the same with garbage cans, and I'm as guilty as the next person, but we have so many now, where do you put them if you don't have a garage? We look like a town of garbage cans.
Okay.
Garbage waste or whatever.
I think the conversation on
Is that-
recommendations comes with our priorities when we set them. So in any correspondence, I'm sure Luann will get to council that is requested.
The question was more so that is that part of is that in the bylaw?
Garbage cans, they're not mentioned specifically in the bylaw, however, unsightlies are. In reference to garbage and disposal, we do have a bylaw. I don't know the certain name of it right now, but it discusses how the rules and regulations are set in how you may store your garbage, and then also set it aside on collection days.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bradley?
Well, just a quick one. Is there some type of process when people walk their dogs and the dog has a tendency to leave something, provided that he was present in your yard? Is there something we
Yes, we do. So under a responsible pet ownership bylaw, dog owners or any animal owner are responsible for picking up any defecation that animal makes.
even if it's well into the yard up by your doorstep kind of thing?
If it's on your property and it wasn't your animal, that is an offense.
Okay. And the response to deal with that would be?
To submit an action request through the town of Didsbury.
Okay, and then the next question is, how would they decide or determine who stalls them?
So in response to that, we would need some form of identification and how to identify that dog that caused it.
Okay, so video at 11 would work.
Video, if you can provide video and a written statement, that would be perfect.
Thank you.
And that goes for any complaint in terms of bylaw. Photos, video, send it to us in form of an action request. Much appreciated.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here and for your short and sweet presentation. Was very interesting too, and your responses to council.
Thank you.
And thanks for what you do out there to keep our traffic and community safe from illegal turns in the middle of the road and all the other stuff. All right, we're going to move on to questions just about the CO report, because it is a long one, and I appreciate there are questions in here. So I'm just, Deputy Mayor, I was just thinking, so go ahead.
So in reading through this huge document, word for word, I came across a project that I was unaware of and kind of excited about. And looks like there's a permit issued, DB 23-014. But I don't know who should answer this question. And it's the proposed project will expand the existing Canada Post Office back of house operations and loading area. And it goes on to talk about an expansion. Is this going forward? Like, is that why the permit was issued, or is this just proposed?
Can, Ethan, who would you like to ask that?
I'll defer to Leanne.
Through the chair, thank you. Yes, the application was received and it has been issued. It's a permitted use as an addition, and they're well under, well, not started, but I did issue the permit as a permitted use.
Thank you.
It is good news, isn't it? For those that get their mail outside. The old long-timers have inside mailboxes. But are there other questions on the CO report? I did have here to thank Luke for an excellent report. These graphs are, I was going to ask a question about that, but I'll ask it next time since you sat down already.
You can ask me now.
Well, okay. There's no sense being here not answering questions, I guess. It's more, I guess, an administrative question, like how these reports for you, how do they help you do your job better? I know there's a report to council, but is there anything in there that helps you?
Yeah, it helps us see our statistics, helps us notice trends and things that are happening. So it's part of what we use to create our new priorities as well. So it's a helpful tool.
Yeah, and it's an excellent report, so thanks for that answer, and I'm glad that it's helpful to you as to us, which is probably the focus anyways, being more helpful to you. So thanks again for that. Ethan, I did see in the UCR report, somebody suggested a designated drop-off zone out here. Do you have any comments on that from administration? I think it's a good idea.
What do they want to drop off?
Well, anything, people or packages or, but that they can, because it's all yellow there, right?
Oh, that's.
And I mean, we see lots of people park there anyway for their own convenience, but at the same time, is that a I guess is administration considering that if, it is a good idea. Because it is quite a hike from.
Yeah, Amanda will speak to that.
Actually, in response to that, I had talked to the fire department about whether that's a required parking lane for fire. And it's a question that needs to go to the development or IGD, I guess. So we have been considering that.
Thanks. Councilor McCoy?
Is now the appropriate time to bring up my discussion. So again, who's responsible for clearing alley entrances? And the other one was that if this was answered, I would like to know the answer as well. The request for a timeline of street cleanup.
Ethan, do you have someone here, or would you like to bring that back? Or just someone who can answer that?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the question. So alley entrances. So the department doesn't maintain alleys in the wintertime, so we don't snow clear in alleys. Chances are we probably don't get into many residential neighborhoods for the most part. So alleys are up to the adjacent landowners for the most part to keep those entrances open. It's part of the sidewalk. And then as far as street cleanup, if you've been watching social media, you've been advised that it's currently ongoing, has been going on for a couple weeks. And as long as the equipment is up and running, we're going to just keep going at it until we're done. So as far as a schedule goes, that's about as all I can get to you at the moment. You're welcome.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
I would like to also extend our thanks to Megan and Brody for the reports. I thought that was exceptional that we got those reports in from our keener members of our DDAC. So I think it's only the second year our DDAC members have gone, but it's nice to see a report and that they were as excited and enthusiastic about that. So extend our thanks for that. Fire department. Anybody can put their hand up, but I know like if 61 calls, there's 20 alarms, and I think we go back to that. Where are we at with that alarm issue with PDC, and how many of those 20 alarms, and you might not be able to answer that tonight, but 20 alarms that were they false alarms, were they hacked alarms, were they, again, this is the issue of PDC, I believe.
So yes, the PEC has met about it, so the committee members will be able to brief you further. I was not at that meeting, and neither was Craig. But as far as the alarms, what our fire chief would consider a false alarm is your alarm not working. So the fact that it was alarmed, it means the alarm is working and they've responded. So he refers to them as just non-emergent alarms versus emergent. But we don't have the answers to how many of those are emergent or non-emergent, but we can bring that back.
Thanks for that. Is PC bringing something back about this? Okay, so I can wait for that then. And I really appreciate, if you go to page 68, Luana, on there. It's just after, it's just below that circle. I really like those explanations there, that really I found helpful. So thank, are you the report generator, or is that, oh, thank you.
That page.
Okay, you'll be happy to know that I don't have any more questions. Anyone else? Councilor McCoy?
I brought this up at the last meeting, and I think I was told that it belongs, or it should be asked during the CEO report, so I'll ask it, and then we can decide. So, at the last meeting, at the presentation of the financials for 2022, I asked about the funding of reserves and if they were fully funded, and if not, how much they were funded. And Amanda at the time didn't know, and so I was hoping to learn that tonight.
I think we need to make a motion for that, actually. Yeah, that's fine. We can make it after the CEO report and everything is accepted. But you'd have to make the motion, I think, and I don't even know that was, I know it was mentioned, but I don't know if it was ever followed through on, because I wondered if you were going to ask that and you didn't, and I could be wrong about the topic, but if there's a motion that you'd like to make after our CEO report, then you can do that. And seeing no more questions, I'm going to find the CEO report. Is there a, I'm on probably the very beginning, I'm getting there. So to accept the CEO report as information, and do we want one to accept our CPO's report too, Ethan? I don't see one on here, but I think that'd be appropriate to accept Luke's verbal report too.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll have a report to accept the CEO report. I'll have a motion. Councilor Baswick?
I'll move that we accept this extensive CAO report as information.
Okay, were you going to make that motion or you had a question?
No, I was gonna, yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Just the luck of the draw.
You're good.
Yep.
You're good.
So everybody knows that. I'll call the vote then, all in favor? That's carried. And to accept our community peace officer report as information, and yeah, you want to make that?
Sure.
Tonight.
I'll move that council accept the community enforcement report, verbal report, as information.
All right, any other questions? I'll call the vote, all in favor? Thanks again, Luke. And then Councilor McCoy has a motion.
I would like to move motion that administration return to,
Well, we make the motion first.
Well, it might make her change her mind on her motion.
You have a motion.
I'm anticipating. So just as an update, and then,
Let me go ahead then.
sorry,
Go ahead.
with your pleasure,
Yes.
Madam Chair, Madam Mayor. So the first quarter financial report is coming at the next council meeting, and that will contain all the information about the reserves, the funding of the reserves. And so it's not that there's not an answer right now, it's just that's often the thing that changes from, and that's why that'll all be kind of finalized and presented in the quarter one report next meeting. So if that suffices.
Well, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to wait and find out if it suffices. But the second part would be, I also asked about, was there rules for all the,
You only had one motion, so,
oh, I never finished it.
so is this all one motion?
Well, I might remove the first part, given that I've been promised that information at the next meeting.
Well, I
The second
think
part-
council gets promised information if I might, but carry on with your motion.
That administration return to us with, return to council with information about the individual reserves, if we need them all, and if there's policies that guide them, and what those policies are.
I think in fairness to administration too, that wasn't mentioned during the report and surprise motions. I think what I'd like to see done, now the motion's made, people can vote, but I would like to suggest that administration bring back what they're going to for the Q1 and whatever isn't there, then motions need to be made. So motions aren't, directions are made by councillors that they need something back. The motions need to be made here that we want that information back. So would you be willing to withdraw that and then wait for it in the Q1?
No, I want to go to one, then I'll ask for that.
Okay, so do you want to repeat the motion then?
Did you get it, Lou? Do you want to read it back?
Yeah, read it back.
Moved by Councillor McCoy that administration bring back information about the individual reserves and if they are needed and if there are policies to guide them.
And what those policies are. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any questions on that? Yeah, I will call the vote then. All in favor? Opposed? That's defeated.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're done with the CR report now, I believe. So we can move on to bylaws and policies. Bylaw 2023-09, planning and business license rates and fees, third reading. Is there someone who would like to make that motion? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council grant third and final reading to bylaw 2023-09 to amend planning and business license rates and fees bylaw 2023-01.
All right, other questions, comments? Councillor McCoy.
Sorry to be so vocal tonight. I have received some complaints from developers who live in the community and those that don't, and one of them in particular is moving out of the community but still intends to build substantial developments in Didsbury, and he was quite annoyed that we were charging him a different rate when he's doing he's doing work for the growth of Didsbury. So I just wondered if we're making a good decision for the growth of Didsbury by charging external people more than internal. Not when it comes to small things like door-to-door salespeople or whatever, it's fine, but for people that are committed to our community, do we really want to draw a boundary? And if they live just outside in Mount View County, do they have to pay more? My question.
I'm not sure, this is planning business license rates and fees, is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything in this bylaw that you'd like to pinpoint? We're on page 69, 70,
Page
71.
72, at the bottom. Business license fees based on zoning and GST exam.
But the amendment is in blue that we're voting on.
However, I have concerns about the stuff that isn't in blue, and I thought this was the opportunity to bring it up before we pass this and overlook maybe what could turn into a potential animosity with our developers and contractors.
This is already passed. The black is already in place and approved, and the blue is what we're going to approve. And if you want to make a motion to bring back the bylaw for revision, that I believe we just passed this a month ago. That was when you would have to make another motion because we're just dealing with the blue. Councillor Baswick?
Thank you, Mayor. If I understand this correctly, if we're talking about charging members of outside the borders of Didsbury, specifically the county, you know my feelings on that. They're very much part of our family as others.
I do, but the motion would have to be to bring the bylaw back to address non-residential and residential, because we're just dealing with the residential development high density right now for the amendment. And if council wants further changes to this bylaw, a motion would have to be made to bring this back to revisit the local and non-local, and that would be after this is passed. Or
Okay, by high density, you would mean multi-family units or apartment buildings?
Do you want to explain, can Ethan, your department, answer that question?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So yes, residential development height is a larger high, like a multi-unit, like an apartment complex, something like that, something with many units in it.
Okay, now I'm not going to take any more questions about anything except the residential high density. And you want to make another motion after this?
Point of clarification for me. So you'd rather us pass this and have it immediately potentially come back for review again?
It is passed. It's
So it
this
hasn't
whole
done
bylaw,
its third reading.
Councillor McCoy, this whole bylaw is approved except the high density. So
Could I have some clarity on that?
we're not approving the rest of the bylaw. We're approving the high density.
I thought when you
So
do for
you said you
second.
want to confirm that?
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the question. Just to help clarify, so this bylaw that's coming is an amending bylaw. So the bylaw that's coming is not the whole rates and fees of planning and development, it's only the blue. So this amending bylaw is to add just the blue. So the only action that can be taken on this bylaw specifically is about the blue.
So may I ask what kind of motion, Mayor, that I would need to make to ensure that the whole bylaw can be looked at and bring it back?
I think you'd have to make a motion to send it back to PDC. And for what reason? It was just here a month ago, and we approved it all.
I don't have complaints on that.
Then you'd have to make the motion. Councillor Bazic?
I guess for me, I need to know, is this an increase? Why are we doing this? Is this just something we missed somewhere along the way, or is this something we're just decided to do?
And this is a third reading, so that would have been in last week's, but Ethan would like to answer that, I think. Or not last week's, last meeting's information.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the question. Yes, this is to add a use. This wasn't in there before, and this is, again, we don't get a lot of these, and this was something that wasn't, that was missed when we were doing the original bylaw, and then due to some recent discussions with developers, we realized this was something we were missing, and so we brought this amending bylaw to help add this use within our bylaw to make sure we have a framework to deal with it.
If I may, okay, so if potential developers or current developers have applied for development permits, are they aware of this, or is this a last minute thing that they're going to be surprised with when it goes through?
This is to be helpful. This is to get ahead of it so that they don't have to be delayed in their high residential or high density. So Ethan, please answer that.
No, I guess my question, excuse me, is that if I want to build 300 units somewhere around Didsbury, wherever, and I've already talked to planning about it, is this going to come through the back door and now I've got all of a sudden another $200 per unit to deal with? That's my question.
Ethan, you want to answer that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, this will actually, we've been communicating with developers about this proposed information already so that they're well aware of it, and it's also an improvement because lacking this, the only framework we'd have to charge is much more. So this is actually, again, because it's a helpful framework for something for them. Otherwise, we'd have to apply the one and times it by the only one we have, and so this is a most welcome improvement.
Thank you, I get it, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna call the vote on the residential development high density amending bylaw. And I will do that right now. All in favor? That's carried. All right. We have item,
Mayor,
yes,
I make the motion you suggested I make.
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that the bylaw be brought back to all of council in regards to discussion about the business rates and fees. And at which time it could be discussed by all of council, and if council sees fit, it would go to a subcommittee. I'd like it to go to council first.
Questions? Deputy Mayor?
I guess I'm wondering what in this bylaw, I might be missing something and I might just be down. Okay, so non-residential business license. Does that mean someone that lives in the county and has a business in Didsbury pays more?
Mm-hmm.
And why would we not just bring that particular item back instead of the whole bylaw? Can that be done?
There's a motion. Council can do anything, but the motion is to bring this back, and Ethan, go ahead.
Well, just to clarify, sorry, someone who lives out of town but has a business based in Didsbury would get the local rate. So this non-local rate is just for someone who's based, say your business is based in Carstairs, then you would have the non-local rate.
And I'd like the sidebars to just continue on my left. If there's something to say, please put your hand up and we'll listen to it. And Deputy Mayor, go ahead, yep.
So we're really talking about someone out of town that needs a business license in town. And I tend more not to think of someone from Carstairs, but I know we get a lot from the city that want to come in and aerate lawns. That's one I see. And I don't know if they're even carrying business licenses quite often, or how we even enforce that. I'm not against that. It's $100 difference. But I think someone living in Carstairs that is working on something here, do they need per se a business license if they're contracted to do something? Like if they're hired to come in and fix a garage?
Yes, so basically someone whose business isn't based here, and again, this is, the philosophy here is that because the business administration is supported by tax dollars, and so it's to recognize the contribution that the tax-paying businesses make to fund the business support administrative services that are there in the town to offset that. And so those that aren't contributing to those revenues because they don't pay any taxes whatsoever, whether as a resident or as a business, then there's an added fee to have access to the market of providing services in the town.
Thank you.
I'd just like to speak to that motion too, that's not the practice of council now. The practice is to go to our committees to sort out things and bring it back. To save time, but obviously we're not saving time on a few of these items tonight. So the motion is to have a discussion of planning and business licenses. And I will call the vote. All in favor? Councilor McCoy's motion. Do you want to repeat it, Lorna?
To bring back bylaw 2023-01 to council to address the non-resident business license fee.
And we'll call the vote again. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm sorry.
That's defeated as well. We have item 7.2, tax penalties bylaw, 23-07. We are at second reading of this, and I believe that we had SPC look at this. So, Councillor Williams is looking at me like he'd like to speak.
I don't know if I want to speak from it. I'm the chair, so. Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, Strategic Planning Committee met on April 14th to discuss the tax penalties bylaw. The committee recommends that the tax penalties bylaw 2023 receive second and third reading as presented. And you'll see down there. I forget, Councilor Walt, was there any changes that we presented?
Yes, we are looking to go back to what we had before COVID as far as timing. And that's the major change here. And it will be advertised thoroughly, but some people maybe have gotten used to paying their taxes in July or August. And the date now will be moved back to the end of June. And so the first penalty would be on July 1st. And that is a change that hopefully everybody will see. And the percentage, like what we had before was to have them later, so the percentages were different. So this one is 5, 5, and 5, with the 1.5 for really old ones.
Any questions of the committee or Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm not sure how to go about this, so I'll ask the committee members if they considered when the notice of taxation is going to go out, and whether that has a bearing on when it is determined to be late in your payment. And the reason I ask that is we haven't even set the tax rate now, so the tax notices can't go out until we actually set the tax rate. And if like last year, the tax notices didn't go out until partially June, then you're expecting the residents that pay on an annual basis to adjust to that when they're used to having it at the end of August.
So, would you like to defer that to Amanda, or do you guys, the committee, have an answer? And I would have to ask Ethan if we can defer that to Amanda.
Absolutely.
Through the chair, the MGA actually requires that we give a minimum of 30 days notice. So if the tax rate bylaw is not set before June 1st, then we have to change the deadline date. But we anticipate it being able to be set in May, giving us the 30 plus days notice to our taxpayers.
Thank you for that. Anything to add? Couldn't have been said better, committee? Councilor Windsor, you had...
Well, thank you, Mayor Hunter, and until we have that tax rate set, isn't this premature making this decision now? I mean, we anticipate it to be done by the end of May, but we don't know that that's going to happen. And I will be voting against...
you off here. I really would like the sidebars to stop on my left.
I will vote against this on that basis. That I think it's premature.
Okay, and it's... You can vote that way. That's fine. Are there any other comments or questions about this? Councillor Baswick?
I guess, Mayor, knowing that, we're not going to get to third reading, so we might as well just gas it. Because the minute somebody declines the third reading, it's not going to go.
No, that would be when you do all three readings in one night. So we already did the first reading last meeting.
Right.
So second reading is tonight. We don't have to have the motion for unanimous approval to go to the third reading. So, yeah, that won't deter us. Ethan?
Just a small amendment that might alleviate the concern is we could amend the wording. It could be approved with a slight amendment that says June 30th or 30 days after the notice of the taxes, something along those lines, whatever date is later, comma, whatever date is later. So the later of either June 30th or 30 days after when the notices are issued.
Well, that committee, I think, I know you're not going to sit here and have a sidebar, but I would ask if there's any reason to believe that we wouldn't have the tax rate passed on May 9th or tonight? May 9th, or no, it's going to SBC, so May 9th, or what's after that, 23rd. So the 23rd, and I think council just has to be diligent, and we never really struggle over the tax rate. The SBC is slotted to get this sent to them for a recommendation, so Deputy Mayor?
I think I would just support the amended, whichever date comes later. It just relieves everyone's anxiety about if it doesn't get passed, then we're going to extend it for that 30-day period. I know it was alluded to that we have to give them 30 days anyway from the date, but let's just put it in there and move on.
If the committee is fine with that, do you want to speak to that?
I would just like to ask if that can be inserted as, you know, so it's amended right now, so that we can pass second and third tonight.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Where would the wording go? Looking where the wording would go?
It ought to be number 3.
Which it could, and if it would help, I mean, so we don't have to figure this out now, because it's not like there's any rush on this specific bylaw. We could maybe just do second reading and send it back to SDC,
And
so
see it back
they
as-
can come back in conjunction with the tax rate bylaw. And then
Okay.
the committee can work out.
Do you agree with that, committee? I think that's a good idea too. Yeah. So do second reading as amended.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council grants second reading to bylaw 2023-07, tax penalties bylaw to establish penalties on unpaid taxes as amended.
Okay. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have,
You need a motion to send back.
yes, we do. So go ahead with that.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council send bylaw 2023-07, tax penalties bylaw back to the Strategic Planning Committee to provide recommendation.
All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. We have the tax rate bylaw, item 7.3, tax rate bylaw 2023-10. And I believe the SPC dealt with that as well. So we had an exciting meeting.
We did not deal with that because we are trying to grant first reading.
Yeah, you're right, we're going to send it down, so I will let Ethan, is there anything to add to that from administration? I'd just like to hear other people talk. I'm just seeing if you remembered. Okay, so we have first, are you going to make that?
I thought you were sending it to administration to see if the commission had anything else to add.
Well, we're going to have the motion for first reading, and then if there's comments, then we'll have the comments.
So I'll
Then.
read the
Yep.
motion.
You make that too? Okay.
So I move that Council grant first reading to bylaw 2023-010, tax rate to establish the rates for the 2023 taxation year, and that it be referred to the Strategic Planning Committee for recommendation.
Thank you. Usually we don't have a conversation about its tax rate. Is there any input that council would like the committee to consider just briefly, or just send it to them in all their wisdom? They will sort it out and bring back good recommendations. Comments? Oh, well, that, Councillor McCoy?
My only comment is I think this is one of our major roles, and truly I believe it should be discussed as a whole council first and then be sent to the committee. That's just my opinion.
Okay, and you can show that in your vote. You don't have to, but if your hand's up and you'd like to, I'll acknowledge that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. Just for council's understanding or purview, I guess, the 0.6 drop in the split between residential and non-residential, essentially on the property 7 of non-residential doubles the increase in your tax. And so I think that would be definitely attention when we're looking at this particular item in the committee level.
Thanks for that. Okay, any more questions? I will call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that will go to the SPC. You guys feel you're very busy? A good busy though. Okay, we have Council Procedural Bylaw 2023-11. And procedural bylaw is here for first reading. Do you want to make that motion since, okay. Councilor McCoy?
I have a question, so.
We'll have the motion. We are the committee.
So I'll move that council grant first reading to council procedural bylaw 2023-11 and refer it to the Policy and Governance Committee for review and recommendations.
Okay, Councilor McCoy?
My question is, have we checked with legal? I would like to make a motion after this one that says that I would recommend or I would ask council to send it to administration and legal for an opinion before we approve it. Because I think legal can give us, make sure that we're covering everything we should cover in a procedural bylaw.
Ethan, go ahead.
We haven't sent it as a full document to legal, but various aspects of it, especially the changes and improvements the committee was looking at doing, we did consult with legal on those.
I think it would count on the committee to make that recommendation if they felt it was necessary after the committee meeting. I think any committee is tasked with those questions and then make the recommendations, because that's why it's getting sent to committees, is to make recommendations back. So, having said that, if Councilor McCoy wants to make the motion after the fact, then you can. Otherwise, I would count on the committee to bring those recommendations back that they felt was necessary. So, Councilor Windsor, is there any other questions about the motion? Councilor Windsor made the motion.
Not about the motion, but after the motion is made, I would like to, I have some questions.
Did you make the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't think it was made yet. So, I'll put on my mic. So if I may, I do have some questions. It's not so much about legal as about some of the presentations that I've been given on things like this, where it's very clear that the what is council's business and the how is administration's business. And I'm thinking of someone like George Cuff, because in some cases here, it seems that there needs to be an obvious avenue for council as a whole to determine the priorities, timing, and the certainty of the items that are to come forward to council meetings for decisions. And one way that we did that in the past was with the priorities and policies and priorities. I don't see this in here. Maybe it's in there somewhere, maybe I just haven't seen it. But there is, I have a little bit of concern when it's, and certainly all of the communication and everything that you do as our spokesperson is awesome. But I'm a little bit concerned when it's, the agenda has become in this procedural bylaw something that is a joint process between the mayor and CAO. And the opportunity for council as a whole to do that governing role is a little muddy as far as from what I see. I would like, rather than legal, I would like to see someone that is internationally recognized, but Canadian, like George Cuff, to take a look at it, to ensure that we are not mixing what with the how. And I'm not sure how to describe that. I just want to be sure that we are being careful in that regard.
Do you mind if I respond to that at the committee level? Because and I think our context there is always that the mayor meets with the CO to set the agenda, and that's what that would cover. And if you wanted us to be mindful of that, maybe get that direction on those things, because it's certainly not to do the job. It's to set the agenda in a meeting and make sure that the governance side of it is covered in these meetings that we've always had. So it's not meant to do any of Milanda's work because she likes her job. Go ahead. Yeah.
If I could just respond, I just want to make sure that the wording is clear, because it's not necessarily you or this council that will be dealing with this in the future. And so I think that this is an important thing to make sure that the wording is right. And that the other thing that I had brought up before is that hopefully communication protocols for council committees and council committee members be included in the procedural bylaw, and I think you were going to do that anyway.
Okay.
I agree with Councilor Moore's concern. I also noticed that what I find missing in here is the actual order of the agenda. And if you go through procedural bylaws all around us, they all contain the order of the meeting order. And I'd like to see that returned back to this bylaw.
So the committee's here listening, and it's being sent to the committee for review and recommendation. So everything that's said here will go back to the table for discussion. And other than that, are there any other comments? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried.
Mayor, all right, if I make that motion now?
Sure.
I would like to motion that council ask administration to review the bylaw with legal to ensure that we aren't missing any key components in this bylaw, as it's a very important one.
Comments, questions?
Just wondering, is this, and this would probably be to administration, is this the right time, or do we do that right at the end when we're ready to make it a bylaw? Do we do it at this stage? Do we do it at the next stage? When is the best time to do that?
Councilor Windsor has a comment on Ethan probably does, and go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think administration had indicated earlier in this conversation that for the changes that we've made, they've already talked to legal. And so I'm not sure what purpose this would serve since administration's already undertaken that task. That's my comment.
May I answer?
I'm going to let Ethan speak first.
Oh, just to answer the question, there's not necessarily it's at council's pleasure and interest when they would like to seek legal, if at all, on something.
In response to Councillor Windsor's question, what I heard the CEO state was that he reviewed the changes with legal. He didn't review the entire document with legal. And I guess my thing is, I want the whole document reviewed to see if anything's missing. Maybe what you've added and corrected is perfect, but all the black stuff, he hasn't looked at. And he hasn't identified that there's missing stuff, because all all he sees the red highlighted stuff. That's my answer. And I'd ask for recording vote again.
I kind of agree that after the document is completed, if I was you, I want to see it after it's completed. And then when it's completed, it comes to council, so we have assurance that it's been overviewed by legal, and then we vote on it. I wouldn't want to do it ahead of time. So whatever is here goes to legal, they give an opinion, administration brings it to us, and then we move forward.
I'm not taking any more questions. Let's get into a debate. That I appreciate your comment, Councillor Baswick. I know that I think our administrative team is very competent, capable, and I'm just going to say the black part of this, the black text, was implemented a couple of years ago, so that hasn't changed. And I trust our administrative team to always review and be following the MGA, and I have total faith that they are. So I am going to call the vote on the motion, if you'll read it back.
Point of order, Mayor, please.
I'm not taking any more questions.
The previous council looked at it, not this
Any
council.
more questions?
Point of order.
It's at PDC. There's no point of order. It being at PDC, addressing it, and it's coming back for second reading. So the comments were made and taken, reviewed for the PGC to consider. And Luana, would you read back?
Moved by Councillor McCoy that council request administration have a legal review and opinion on council procedural bylaw 2023-11 to ensure key components are not missing. And it's a recorded vote.
Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That's defeated. Let's go to 7.5, Policy Plan 002, Seasonal Pop-Up Patios. Pop-up, that could be catchy, eh? Seasonal Pop-Up Patios. Councillor Williams, you want to...
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council approves policy plan 002, seasonal pop-up patios.
All right, questions or comments on seasonal pop-up patios? You have to say that. Whoever speaks has to say it.
Say that 10 times.
Just- Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that this is pretty much exclusively aimed at food establishments. And I'm wondering why we are picking out food establishments. Maybe there's other enterprises in the community that would also like to have a pop out in front of their place in a parking stall.
We wouldn't have any parking stalls, but would you like to answer that? Ethan, can someone answer that?
Yes, thank you for the question. This is really just designed to be for the outdoor eating and drinking experience that was discovered during adjustments that were made during COVID. And it was something that was discovered as being something that seemed to enhance the enjoyment of the downtown. And so that's all that's been considered with regards to this.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good thing. I would want administration to look at some of the rules possibly, because I think that the 1906 managed their patio very well. It was parking when they didn't have enough people, and as they were having a busier night, they pulled it out, and it was very clean and tidy looking. It also didn't permanently take spots. So if it could be a true pop-up that you can fold back into the sidewalk at the end of the day, I think that would be best. And that there be some sort of aesthetics to it, not just rope and sticks and whatnot. I think it should beautify the downtown, and I believe that a couple of them did for sure.
Councillor Baswick?
I'm ready for the motion, if you like. You made the motion?
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it.
Thank you for that. I'll call the vote. I tried, Councillor Basil, we have one more question.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hunter. And I was at an event in Ontario when we were out there, and they had a liquor, a whiskey tasting event that was taking place. And I drank way too much there, but that doesn't matter. The point is that it may be that maybe one of our liquor vendors wants to do something like that. Maybe they would like to be able to do a pop-up as well. And so I would like council to consider expanding this to more than just the food vendors. Maybe there's other enterprises downtown that would like to take advantage of this as well.
This is to approve the policy, and then it's going to be referred to the PGC. So I think your comments are maybe more relative to the PGC suggestions, or suggestions to PGC, because right now we're just approving that there is, this is in place, and then it will go to PGC. Well, we haven't voted on yours first one. Yeah, okay. Does that make sense to everybody? I think. Okay, Councillor Basilgan and Councillor Moore.
No, just quickly, if I recall, during the time, all jacked up, that beer making company on Main Street, they had access to these outdoor patios, so I think it's covered. And along with the coffee shop, vintage coffee shop, and of course 1906. So all of these places, liquor establishments as well as restaurants, had the opportunity to do that. Even JD's had theirs at the back, which didn't interfere with anybody, but I think they were covered at what I saw. So.
Thanks for that. Councillor Moore?
Yes, it does say eating and drinking, and that beer place did not have food, they had beer. I would like to just point out too that if we pass this motion, it isn't referred to policy and governance. It's a policy. We just pass it and it's done. So if you vote for this, it doesn't go back there.
I apologize, there's a word from my hand.
So I guess you would have to withdraw your motion if you want a different motion, or you want to just approve this as is, or just would you like to withdraw that one and refer to policy and governance?
I would like to approve it as is. I don't want businesses to read along for us. I think they should just be able to have the policy, pop-up
That's
tags.
fair, and I apologize that I didn't see that, well, I saw the or, but I was reading into it, what it meant. Ethan, did you have a comment?
Well, just to clarify, this policy as written would accommodate any drinking only establishment that has provincial licenses to provide such a service. So anyone providing food or drink would be included in this.
And as always, we showed our vote whether or not we approve the policy as presented or not. And a motion to approve the policy is made by Councillor Williams, and I will call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We have item 8.1, municipal enforcement priorities. Slightly more loop down. This one too,
No, I have a question. Did we amend the agenda to have 8.10 be at the top of the food? Okay.
No, 8.2 is,
Oh,
8.10 went to 8.2.
okay, sorry. Then I'll withdraw that.
Apology accepted. Councillor Moore?
I just want to point out, and I don't know if Luke's still here or not, but what is on here is not the same as what he'd said. The traffic enforcement would cover the illegal crossing of the solid line and seatbelts and distracted driving. But being that he's newly but being that he's newly qualified to be able to do that, I think that's something that we were lacking before, and I can see that being our top priority now. But if we wanted to have 4, we could still have the responsible pet ownership at the bottom, and I would suggest that we do that if you'd like to see it still on the list. He said they would enforce it the same. So I'd like to make that suggestion.
You can make the motion. Do we want them, we want Luana to identify them so we...
I have them.
Okay, good. I didn't, I tried. I'm just not a fast writer.
I would move that council set the 2023 municipal enforcement priorities as follows. Number 1, traffic enforcement. Number 2, community engagement. Number 3, unsightly properties. Number 4, responsible pet ownership.
Thank you for that. Are there any other comments or questions? Councillor McQuaid?
Just a question. Are these priorities crossing over with RCMP? Like, are we taking away a focus on the community bylaw standards and that sort of thing, and having duplication of traffic stuff by making it the #1 priority?
Ethan, do you have, in my mind, no, but maybe you have expertise in that area somewhere, how the RCMP will work with our CPOs to...
Yeah, thanks for the question. This is, municipal priorities are different in the sense of what our enforcement officers bylaw focuses on versus the policing priorities are what our policing detachment focuses on. Sometimes there's an overlap, sometimes they work collaboratively together, but specifically for each of those bodies, what their independent priorities are.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just look at it as our peace officers are augmenting the duties of the RCMP to a lesser extent, and looking after traffic and things like that in the town boundary is not an issue with me. I think the RCMP would enjoy that assistance because they're not here all the time.
Yeah, as Councillor Moore pointed out, we have a CPO who now can, I don't want to say ticket people, but it's true, enforce traffic infractions would be a better way to put it. And he's very good at education. They both are good at education, warnings, I guess. So any other comments on the recommendations? Call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. All right, we've moved 8.2, or 8.10 up to 8.2. And because the hand is waiting for this, I think we should let her speak to it.
Thank you, through the chair. Administration has received an application for a change of use located at Unit 2, 2825 19th Street. The property is zoned DC IND Direct Control District Industrial. The use being applied for is industrial manufacturing and operations. Uses allowed in this district shall be at the discretion of council. The applicant has purchased Mountain View Roastery, and she wants to keep the business operating locally in Didsbury as the existing market is currently located here. Intended use of the space is for green bean coffee roasting and packaging. The proposed location will be operating to serve the online community store at mountainviewroastery.ca as well as markets and retail stores. Mountain View Roastery is a family-owned and operated micro-roastery in Didsbury. They have been in business since 2007 and are dedicated to the sourcing and roasting the finest Arabica coffee beans from around the world and delivering them fresh to their clients. The beans are roasted in small batches and shipped within 24 hours of roasting. Mountain View Roastery has a large following and some clientele that have been with them since the company started. This product is stocked in grocery stores from Crossfield to Sundre and can be found in markets and coffee shops across Alberta. This is not a retail space and there will be no storefront for sales of the product. The location will be used for production, packaging, and shipping only. The process is bringing in the green beans, roasting the beans, packaging the beans from the roaster, boxing and shipping freshly roasted specialty coffee. Hours of operation will be 2 days a month starting every other Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Once production picks up, the days will be altered to additional Fridays and Saturdays. The only odor emitted during roasting of the beans is a strong coffee smell. However, with the roaster being located on the second floor loft, the stack will bring the odor up towards the ceiling and ventilate it out from there. The applicant is able to meet the parking requirements and would be able to provide 2 parking stalls at the front of the building. Parking will only be required for any deliveries made to the business, and deliveries will only occur on the Fridays that roasting is being done or the day prior. Deliveries will start at twice a month and then increase to 4 times a month. Notice of this proposed development was circulated to adjacent landowners for the opportunity to comment, and administration did not receive any responses to the circulation. Administration can support this application as we feel the location for the proposed business would be a good fit within the direct control district industrial. Administration is recommending council approves DP 23020 for industrial manufacturing operations, subject to the following conditions 1 through 5. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Leanne. Councilor McCoy?
Any motion? I would like to motion that council approves DP 23-020 for a change of use located in the DC-IND Direct Control District Industrial, located at unit number 2, 2855 19th Street, subject to the above noted conditions 1 through 5. And this is awesome.
All right, are there any questions or comments for Leanne? I guess coffee flowers can go over and smell the aroma if you want to get a good whiff of more coffee. I actually never heard of green coffee beans roasting, so interesting. Councilor Baswick?
I just wonder if I can hang around there and smell the aroma.
That's what I said. It might be a lineup. Well,
Go for it, too.
yeah, good idea. All right, any more comments? You have one more comment? You want to vote? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Great. Now we have item 8.3, ICF review extension. Sure.
I move the council accept the letter from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Rebecca Schultz, on intermunicipal collaboration framework agreements, review period changes as information, and that Mayor Hunter send a letter on behalf of council that includes their support of retaining the 5-year review period and reaffirming council's proposal submitted to the minister in March 2023.
Comments, questions? All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks for that. Then we have item 8.3, the RCMP retro pay invoice. Councilor Moore.
I will make the motion, but I believe that we heard at Edmonton that we should not be hurrying to do this. And maybe comment to that, so I'll make the motion first. I move that we approve the payment of the RCMP retro pay invoice totaling $44,843.67, and to fund the amount from the RCMP operating reserve. And certainly we can do that at any time, so I would like to ensure that we don't do this prematurely.
Yeah, the discussion on that we had to put this motion in here was for over a year, maybe 2 years, FCM, all in urban municipalities, rural municipalities lobbied federal government, so since it took effect, and they're lobbying with no success. So there are some, the federal government has offered that you can take up to 2 years to pay it. But we believe in what the conversations I've had and the information I listened to, plus that conversation in Edmonton, is the federal government isn't going to change their mind. And going forward in the new negotiations, this is time to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And how, part of that too, we complain or we identify that, municipalities weren't at the table to have input there, but the solution wasn't there ever. The complaint was, but where's the solution? Who would be at the table on behalf of municipalities? And if that's FCM, then we should have identified that sooner in the process. And maybe we should identify that now to have a solution as to who will be at the negotiating table, because I think they've already met twice to negotiate the contract that expired in March. So I hope somebody's there. But that's the new message, is that municipalities want a voice at the table. So they can say that, but they need to identify who they would like that to be. And I guess across 10 provinces and 3 territories, who's going to take that initiative? And maybe that can be part of our letter as well, that, you know, if we want municipalities at the table, we really need to identify who that should be and start working on our behalf. But we don't, we owe 40,000 that is that worth holding out for 2 years or a year and a half, when if they do change their mind, they will reimburse us?
Will they?
Well, that's maybe I shouldn't assume that, but I think in good faith, anybody that does pay it, we don't have a $6 million bill. And I think one of the questions too was, there are some municipalities not going to pay the bill, but many are. So I felt this RFD should present that the town of Didsbury is going to act in good faith, pay this bill, start the conversation about who should be at the table for municipalities, because this might go for 2 years too, and then there'll be retro pay. So maybe that should be captured in that conversation. And it's not that I don't, Alberta municipalities has their say on it or their stance on it, but I don't know that there's 240 municipalities. Have they engaged with us all to see who is or isn't, or has there been a survey wondering who's doing what? And maybe that should be a part of it as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have a very short one and a suggestion. I heard somewhere that the feds are looking at getting rid of the RCMP. And if that's the case, I don't know if anyone else heard that, but I was reading it somewhere online. Could have been a story and a half, I don't know. But anyways, if no one else knows that, we'll assume that. But I have a creative way to pay this bill, and that would be to raise our lease with the RCMP by $748 a month, and then waive that fee in lieu of paying their raised taxes over 5 years, once a month, and that will pay off that debt.
One thing I did hear Deputy Commissioner Mr. Blocky say is unequivocally no, they're not leaving the contracts. That was at our caucus meeting, and that's the answer there right now that the RCMP are saying. So that answers that, and then we have a motion here to pay it, but Councilor Moore, you have any comment?
Yeah, I'm just, because we were advised, and I don't remember, was it a minister or Alberta municipalities, not to hurry to pay it. I know that we were told that. What is the downside of, even though we have this motion that we haven't set aside, what's the downside of waiting? We're not going to impress them by paying it. How about if we delay this to a point at least where we hear what's happening elsewhere, because we were cautioned not to pay it. So I don't, the motions, I need the motion to where it's going to come from and how much it is. But I'm thinking that I wouldn't want to hurry and pay it, because there's absolutely no benefit to doing that.
We do have I think we have until May 15th to apply to have an extension. Ethan or Amanda, I believe that's the case. They extended the deadline to May 15th, so if that motion, if that's the will of council to change it, it does get the conversation started, the motion. I think it would be beneficial to have more information from Alberta municipalities, not from the body of Alberta, but our colleagues. And, you know, I'll be at a few mayor's meetings coming up the next month or 6 weeks, so certainly poll there. But if we want that extension, we'll have to ask for it here tonight so that we can get it in. And then,
Yeah, just to speak to what you've been mentioning about, so basically we have two options, either to pay the invoice within a certain time frame or to request an extended payment schedule with up to 2 years to pay in full. So we basically, either way, you have to do one of the two things.
Two parts here. So the first one, if we take an extension, we're not hit with any interest charges. We don't have to pay more than that amount. So I think that we should just take and leave the money in the bank, draw what little interest they're paying, and in 2 years, when we realize that we still have to pay it, we can send them that and keep the change.
keep the interest.
Yes.
Yeah, Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. So it seems to me, based on what I'm hearing here, is that probably we need to withdraw this motion or amend it to ask for the extension. The other side of it is that I would like a little clarification on when the agreement was signed between the Government of Canada and the National Police Federation, because I'm sure it was, pretty sure it wasn't August 6, 2023, because we haven't gotten there yet.
2016, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think we're missing. Can we just wait for a moment? Join us, Councillor McCoy. Question to administration? Go ahead.
Through the chair, that looks like it's a typo, so it's actually August 6, 2021 when the agreement was signed.
Thanks for that.
Oh, up there.
Okay. Yeah, so amendment to, I think we need more than just the amendment to delay the payment to get that approval, but to further explore, and maybe Alberta municipalities needs more of a statement or some backing or facts or information to send out to municipalities about who is participating in an extension or an immediate payment. I hear a lot that are going to pay, I hear a lot that are resisting it, so I think it's important. I think it's good information for us, and if you want to amend that to ask for the extension and have administration we can bring that back.
I will withdraw that motion, and I'm just wondering how administration would like it worded as to what we're going to do. Whoops, my mic went off. Is there a suggestion of how we can do that to best cover all our options here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. I think what we'd recommend is to explore some of these things, to give us the time to do that, would be to a simple motion to request an extended payment schedule with up to 2 years. Or maybe simpler than that, to a motion to request an extended payment schedule from Division.
And a second,
That would be my new motion,
okay. And I can
to
write that
request
down.
an extended payment schedule from K-Division.
And I think a second motion too, I think we need to write a letter to Alberta municipalities and clarify, have them clarify. You know, you can stand up in front of a crowd and ask for that, but I think if they have an official statement they'd like to share, and I think that maybe they poll their members too. As part of that letter, we
Do you
request
want
that.
that part of that motion?
I think we can make a second motion on that. Is that
Or
okay?
second motion?
So the first motion for a 2-year, up to 2-year extension. Call the vote, all in favor? And then a letter to Alberta municipalities for clarification and for a polling process, feedback process.
Okay, and I would move that a letter be sent to Alberta municipalities for feedback and polling process regarding retroactive RCMP pay.
Thanks for that. Call the vote, all in favor? That's carried. All right, we have Parkland Regional Library Board agreement.
Okay, I can do this.
You want to make that motion since you're...
So that I'll move that council accept the letter from Parkland Regional Library Board regarding the amending Article 8.3 of the Parkland Regional Library System Membership Agreement as information, and approve the Town of Didsbury Board representative to continue to advocate on this issue. So essentially what happened was that the renovation or the revision was taken to the board defeated the motion, and so now we have to wait 6 months before we can bring it back to the table again. There's going to have to be some advocacy done with regard to that among the board members, because the board members aren't necessarily elected representatives. They don't necessarily understand what this resolution was all about, and some board members weren't necessarily representing the interests of their municipality. So, yeah, we'll tackle this again in another 3 months.
Okay, I just want clarification again on, with the Treasury Board numbers. I believe that we pay for 300 more residents than we have. Is that true?
That's, yeah, it's about 200 is the number. The thing about it is that that depends on whether you're looking at the 2016 census numbers or the 2021 census numbers, because it's closer to 500 if you're looking at the 2021 census numbers. And the argument here is not what number, what census we're going to use. It's simply to use the number instead of an estimate, which is the Treasury branch number is an estimate of what the population is, to not use an estimate number, but simply to use the same number as what the provincial government uses through municipal affairs to award grants to the municipalities. Whatever that number is, whether it's the 2016 census, whether it's the 2021 census, it's irrelevant.
Yeah. And that we want to pay for actually the number of our residents and our citizens and use the census that we've always used. So there's a motion, and you had a little amendment to it that included that we ask our PRL board member to continue to pursue that. Okay. Oh, thank you. I never have my papers in front of me. Because I have too many papers, I'm sorry. Okay. Let me get to that page. I will call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, with my agenda in front of me, we have item 8.5, blue bin forensic audit. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. The Strategic Planning Committee also discussed this at April 14th. The committee decided that council not proceed with the blue bin forensic audit at this time, and that we will be look at it in the future, but attached to the agenda is a summary of an audit that a neighboring municipality did. So I move that council accept the report on the blue bin forensic audit as information.
All right, so are there any other comments, questions about that? Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I wonder if I could ask the committee why they chose to not do the forensic audit. What was the reasoning behind it?
Well, I can't speak for the rest of the committee, but for me, the questions that we asked at the committee, for one thing, it's a snapshot in time. I know that with mine, I will have more cardboard around Christmas. I'll have more cans in winter. It is a one-time pickup, and the amounts within the variances that they talked to us about if they're a little bit different than that, what difference is it going to make? Why would we spend money that we don't need to spend when basically within a range, it showed pictures of all of the stuff, they clear out a whole area, they dump everything that comes from the town and they weigh it and then they separate it and then they make this kind of a report. There's going to be a little bit of contamination, there's going to be a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they told us that the market varies. And so, are we going to like quit doing it? If we're not going to have a decision coming out of this, why would we spend any money on it? Because we don't need to, and it's just one snapshot which will be different the next time they do it.
All right, thanks for that. You want to have another question? Well, Councillor McCoy, then in response, did that answer your question? I guess I'll ask first.
Not exactly, but yes, kind of.
Okay, I'll come back to you then. Councillor Baswick, then Councillor McCoy. I wasn't looking this way, I didn't see who's went up first. Go ahead.
I wonder if it's a matter of education. Like, lots of people have heard over the years that China stopped accepting our recycling and now it's just being thrown in the landfill. So maybe people got careless, and maybe really educating them on what can go in there and that you can put tins in there, but they can't still have tuna in them, right? Like they have to be rinsed out, and all the rules that Ease 360 has. Maybe education might work to fix the contaminated materials, like reduce them, which I would assume is what they're looking for.
Okay, we're talking about the forensic audit right now. Do you have a question about the forensic audit and why the committee chose not to do it?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mary. We looked at it, and I was at that meeting, and we decided $1,000 spent for something that I don't think there's anybody in this room really cares if they're picking up 0.0003% of plastic, as they show here, or 7.64% of OCC, whatever that is. It's immaterial. We're just throwing stuff out. I kind of agree with Councillor McCoy with it. It's so unusual.
Very.
But to educate the people as to what they can put in. I know Councillor Windsor said at one time, if you throw a pizza box in there, it's contaminated and affects the load, right? So, but as far as the audit goes, I don't think anybody cares whether you got 1% of plastic or clothing or whatever you're throwing in there. For $1,000, I don't need to know.
Okay, and that's the issue with forensic audit, that they're not recommending that the forensic audit be done because it isn't doing anything except showing what is in the forensic audit. You had another question?
It's not a question, Mayor Hunter. I would like to speak to the motion, and I agree with the motion that we shouldn't be doing this forensic audit. I'm on that committee, but I couldn't be at that, and so Councillor Baswick sat in for me, so I wasn't able to speak at the committee level. So what the forensic audit doesn't do is it doesn't tell you that there is actually recycling. What it does is it tells you what's collected in the blue bins, but it doesn't tell you that there's recycling. There's all kinds of indicators right across the industry, right across the board, that indicates that we're not recycling anywhere near 85%, not even anywhere near 30%. And so to do a forensic audit, if it was going to be meaningful, it would have to be to the end point. It would have to be to the point where either the product goes into a process to be recycled into something new or something different, or it goes to the landfill, and that the forensic audit doesn't do that.
Okay, thanks for that. Are there any other comments then on this? We have the motion just to accept the audit as information. I'll call the vote then. All in favor? That's carried. We have item 8.6, bulk water rates. I believe SPC dealt with that as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Also on April 14th, the SPC committee met to discuss the bulk water rates. And at this time, the committee discussed the topic immensely and decided that the bulk water rates remain the same. The whole conversation was around the definition of local and non-local regarding bulk water rates. Local is defined as having a service account in the town of Didsbury corporate limits. Non-local is a customer without a service account in the town of Didsbury corporate limits. So at this time, the committee decides that bulk waterways should remain the same. So I move that council accept the report on bulk waterways as informational.
Okay, questions, Councillor Badger?
Thank you, Mayor. I was in that meeting. I didn't quite agree, and I'll tell you why. The idea of a two-tier water rate charge is bothersome. And I suggested the county is very much part of our community. If we were to discuss this with our EDO, which I have not, you would likely discover that our basic trading area runs east and west, and a tad less north and south. The frequent visits to our community by county acreage owners and farmers support all our business owners. The disposable income of Didsbury alone cannot support this town. We rely on the frequent visits from our county neighbors. Locals that work outside of Didsbury will usually shop on the way home where they work, like Red Deer, Calgary. The county residents come to Didsbury to buy from Checker, Home Hardware, etc. And while here, they'll stop for coffee, meal, gas, and other items. And we rely on the spending from these county neighbors to assist in the viability and survivability of Didsbury. Our growth depends on it. Without the support of county customers, the number of restaurants, gas bars, liquor stores, drug stores, and the like would be less than there are. Therefore, I respectfully suggest that we reassign the bulk water internal accounting process and revert to the $6 per cube. We can determine later how we determine who qualifies as a non-resident. This, in my opinion, needs to be addressed now because the seeding process is about to begin, and I don't want to ignore the potential income loss to another town. Briefly, as an example, yesterday,
Councillor Baswick?
I can continue, I get the opportunity to talk here.
You do get the opportunity to talk about
Yes, I do.
the motion, and you've stated your case. So
I haven't stated my case yet. I'm about 3 sentences and I'm done.
I'll give you that.
Thank you. Just yesterday, a truck and trailer carrying an empty 2,500-gallon water tank pulled in front of me, obviously going for water. I followed him because we were going in the same direction. When we hit the end of the road on 2A, he went south, obviously to Carstairs, where it's cheaper to buy bulk water. The season, that makes it, the difference of $6 and $8 is a huge difference in that kind of volume. The season is upon us. Let's show appreciation to our county partners who regularly support our town instead of alienating part of our community. End of comment. Thank you.
Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing that I would suggest might be a positive change would be to include a definition on the what is local and what is considered non-local, so that everyone can understand exactly what that means.
Did the committee consider putting that into the bylaw at the time?
I think it's in there.
It wasn't in there. Amanda?
Through the chair, the bylaw doesn't specifically define local or non-local, but there is a part in the bylaw that speaks about who is charged the non-local or non-resident surcharge. And no, the committee did not discuss that.
The definition would be good. Okay. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
So, I know one of the arguments that I heard was because the non-residents don't support our infrastructure and the cost of it. However, I think anyone buying bulk water is supporting our infrastructure because they're paying substantially more for that than the water that's delivered to our house, if I'm correct. I don't think I pay $6 a cube at my home. That would be my question. So I think anyone going to a bulk station paying $6 or $7 or $8, whatever that amount is actually contributing, because they're probably paying almost double what I pay to get it delivered to my house. But someone would have to back those numbers up for me.
I'm just trying to keep this on track, because the committee has made a recommendation, and you can show your thoughts in the vote on the recommendation to accept this information, and then there'll have to be another motion made if this motion is defeated. So I think we're getting way off topic. The committee, you sat on the committee when they brought the information back, and what we're after here is whether or not you support this motion or not, and what the alternative is.
And we speak to it accordingly.
You can support the motion or not, or you can make a different motion. Because I can call the motion. And I'm just trying to keep it on track, and I think we're not taking to heart the infrastructure part of it. And if we are, and you still want to make a motion to send it back to SPC, then that'll be after. Councillor Williams has a motion at the table. So Councillor McCoy, I'll take one last question and then we'll have a vote on this.
I agree that part of the problem is that the infrastructure itself. What if someone who wanted to use our water had to pay the monthly service fee that all the residents pay that supports the infrastructure underneath, right? And then if they're taking the water, they're helping fund new replacement infrastructure.
With that, that's something that I talked to somebody about, and I'm interested in that cost. So we pay an infrastructure fee monthly, users or citizens that have a water account. How much is that a month? And would it be so there's residential fee and there's also a commercial fee, I believe, for the infrastructure fee. Do you have that, Amanda?
I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but so the difference though is that this is so the Public Works Department buys the water from the Water Department. So all of the costs with an anticipated consumption gets charged to the Public Works Department. And then that's how but there's also the cost of doing the monthly billing for that, taking the reads. Like there's people costs involved in having a bulk water station. So when we're calculating the cost, that's all involved. But if you were to put it back into the water system and you just wanted it to pay the same cost as like a house or a commercial business, then they would pay a 3-inch meter or larger, which is what it would pay about $152 a month. I'm just going from memory, so that might be slightly off for that infrastructure cost. If it was a resident, it's about $18 a month or $19. So, but it's definitely bigger than the line going to a residence.
So I just wonder if there's anything here that the SPC would like to consider sending it back, or you'd like your motion to stand. And I know that's unfair to ask you point blank if you'd like that, because one of the cases that sold me that we need the different rates is because with our aquatic facility, the arena, we get support from the county for that, but we don't for our water and wastewater. So the infrastructure has to be paid by Didsbury's residents, citizens, and rate pay, through their bills that they pay. It's not tax supported, but they pay it through the bills, so all the people with accounts pay for that. So maybe the people with accounts that are non-local get that added on, get an infrastructure fee added on for an annual license. Because then they would be on par with our citizens who pay that infrastructure fee that Councillor McCoy alluded to, and I know it's been discussed. So I'm just asking the committee if that's a consideration, or if you'd like a motion to stand. Councillor Moore?
There were some very complicated possibilities for bulk water access. I think one of them was like Hannah or someplace like that, where anybody that wanted to get water had to pay a monthly fee and a license fee and an access fee, and then there was water fees on top of that. Ours is similar to Crossfield, where theirs are 6 and 8 as well, and they're on the same water line as we are. And Three Hills closed theirs, that closed. But I do think that all of the costs, as being that the Public Works actually buys it at the rate that we do it, from the Water Commission. Then they set up the bulk station, they run it, they do all the bookwork and everything like that, and it is worthy of an upcharge. I think having it the same amount doesn't make any sense, because then I'm covering that in my water infrastructure fee, and I don't want to. So I think that was the thinking there. It may be a bit of a jolt, but.
And I apologize, I read into it that you might not have explored that, but I should have read into that you did. And I apologize for that, it was a question. So I am going to call the vote on this motion. If someone else wants to make a different motion, then we'll do that. So we have a motion to accept the bulk water rates as information. And I will call the vote. All in favor?
This is information?
Yeah.
Opposed?
Sorry,
What does that mean?
that means you should have said carry.
Okay.
I think she went to both.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave it at that unless there's another motion. Councillor Baswick?
Yeah, I would like to move that the discussion on water rates go back to committee for further review. This is a commodity. We do not have wastewater. It's a one-way thing. They buy the water, it goes out. There's no wastewater problem with that. And the fact that we sell it internally to ourselves just doesn't compute with me.
So what's your motion?
The motion is it goes back to committee for review, and again to put a little sensibility into this process.
I believe you have been sensible, so just so you know. Questions or comments? Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, again, maybe I'm being misunderstood, but I pay a fee at home, a monthly fee for water distribution to my house, and then I pay $2. What's my water bill right now?
Yeah, three something, isn't it? For
$3.60
$3.60 per cube.
per cube. And so when we're selling bulk water at $6 and I need to go buy some, I pay $6. I don't get any break because I'm already paying a structure fee. And I just think that if we're selling bulk water for $6, we shouldn't distinguish, because I think $6 is $2 a cube or $3 a cube over what I'm already paying. I guess that's my point. So I would just like to see the water rates at $6 or $7 or $8, whatever that is. We don't distinguish it.
And then, if this motion's passed, that committee would take that on. So there's a motion to set it back to committee for a re-review, and I don't believe Councillor Baswick meant the sensible things, that you weren't sensible in your decision. I think it was just a word he picked. Because I would be offended by that if I were you, committee. So I'll call the vote to send it back to committee for one more look at it. And 3 times a charm. All in favor? Opposed? So that's carried. That's defeated. What was the motion? It was defeated. Okay. So saved you a little bit of work. Yeah, you've done a lot of work on it. Thanks for that. So we have item 8.7, Bethany Care Foundation, request for letter of support. Councilor Moore.
I move that to approve that Mayor Hunter write on behalf of council a letter of support for Bethany Care Foundation to aid in their fundraising projects and endeavors.
Thanks for that. Any comments or questions? Looking forward to seeing Heidi here on May 9th. Call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Then we have Highway 582 and 23rd Street intersection project, 8.8. Go ahead.
I move the council approve the award of Highway 582 and 23rd Street intersection upgrade contract to Ruby Rock Asphalt Work Limited for $557,554.87.
Okay, any questions, Councilor McCoy?
I think the difference is like remarkable. I just want to ensure that they're going to do the same work as the one that's almost double.
Ethan, does someone want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll defer to Craig.
Thank you for the question. Outside of just saying, yes, they understand the scope of work, and I don't have much to add.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. I will call the vote. All in favor?
Can we have a question first?
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. No, we've asked enough tonight. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, thank you, Mayor Hunter. So I think that this is kind of like a no-brainer. I think that the difference here is unbelievable. But I do have a question, and that is that I think this was the same company that we had difficulty with last year, getting jobs done in concert with the contract that they had with us. And I wonder what would be the assurance, or how do we get assurance that we're not going to run into the same difficulty with this project, given that this involves the government?
Maybe AT has more clout sometimes, I don't know. Craig, Ethan, do you want Craig to answer that?
Thank you for the question. So the clout, I think, comes in the form of $290,000 worth of money that we have available to us before the next available contractor is a big part. So that's a large amount of money to sort of put on the table for a risk that doesn't exist at the moment. Yeah, it existed last year, but last year was last year. In the analysis of the bids, we do an evaluation which takes into account historical performance of the contractors. So in the evaluation of the bids, that's already also worked into the scoring criteria that gives them the ranking. The ISL report that backs this up goes into extensive details about how they do the analysis on that ranking. But at the end of the day, with this much of a gap between first and second place, even if they performed, let's say, less than satisfactory in a previous year, that rating would have a hard time sort of overtaking that difference in price. So it's because the performance is a factor, so is price. Price is a large factor when we're awarding work like this. So you get left with smaller percentages associated with performance ratings, and they have less of an impact, especially when you got a big price spread such as this.
Thanks for that. You want a follow-up question?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I wasn't asking for the ranking or the rating, or I wasn't asking that. I'm asking for how we get assurance that they're going to actually do the job and get it done, unlike we had from last year. That's what clout do we have to move it forward? Last year we had to waive a contract. We had to put an extension on a contract. So, like, what clout do we have to make sure that this gets done in the time allotted?
Thank you for your previous answer as well. I think it was informative. Ethan, do you want Greg to answer that as well?
My apologies, Councillor Windsor. I sometimes get caught answering questions people don't ask. It's a failure of an engineer, I guess. So the answer to your real question is a performance bond. So when we do, even last year's contract had a performance bond with it. They didn't perform to the point where we would have exercised that unless there was something egregious. If it was still clay out there, let's say, we would definitely have some purpose to go forward with collecting the work to be conducted through a performance bond. I think we did talk about this when we were evaluating that contract. But so for this year, we also then have a new performance bond. We're really early in the season too, which is playing to our benefit. We worked really hard to get here.
All right, Councillor McCoy.
I was just going to mention that I'm aware that last year there was extraordinary, exceptional occurrence with the company that caused much of that delay, and also it rained forever.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe this is premature, but with considerations totaling possibly 1.2 and we approve 1.5 in the capital budget, do we have to amend the capital budget?
Ethan?
No.
Only if you go over, or want to go over. Yes. You're happy that you're under. So, I did have one wrote down here, and I always had the vote done, so I guess I'll ask it. And that is about you say land acquisition costs are minimal, and that might be somewhere that we have read before, but there's a lot of information I've read lately, so what is minimal for land costs? Is it included in this? It would be covered by the budget that we've approved, because sometimes the land acquisition is a different line.
So there's a couple of questions in there. So yes, it was included in the overall budget contemplation when we approached AT. We knew that we needed a little bit of extra land. We didn't know how much at the time, so we did throw in some ballpark numbers. I don't want to get into the actual value because there is only one landowner that we had to compensate for land, so I don't really want to say the price of it, but it was well below our estimate as well, and fair market value for the land, so it was a win.
Okay, no, I don't need that exact amount. I just thank you for those answers. Appreciate that. Okay, I think we're ready for the vote now. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks for that. And we have Olds. I like how we go from a major intersection $5 million project to a hospice society request, which is, we're always happy to entertain and welcome those requests. So Councillor Moore.
I move to approve Mayor Hunter on behalf of Council to deliver a welcome message to the participants of the first annual hike for hospice event on May 7th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. at the Didsbury Memorial Park.
Comments or questions? Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm looking at the letter from the Hospice Society, and they're asking for a proclamation, which we don't do. Do we need to respond to that?
We certainly can. Yeah, we could write a letter of response and just wish them well and good luck with their walk, and that we don't have a policy to endorse that. So thanks for bringing that up. We can add that we maybe will amend, if you would mind amending that to respond about the proclamation.
Yes.
And the other part of that is exciting that we're lining up the Hospice Society to present here on May 9th, and I think it's long overdue that we got the information and the presentation from the Hospice Society. So we appreciate. I know you don't want to. I won't drag it on, but I did just talk to Mary at the spring registration night, and this has all come about since then. So the spring registration nights are awesome. We'll call the vote as amended.
Can we get clarification on the amendment?
The amendment is to add the letter to respond about the proclamation. All in favor? That's carried. We have item 8.10 now, I think, 2023 projects award recommendation. Who's that? I think I'm right. Okay.
We've already done
No, we didn't DP, but I think the next one would be 8.10.
that. Oh.
2023 projects award.
Okay.
So, Councillor McCoy?
I'll move that council award the Memorial Complex storm improvements and 20th Street overlay contract to Ruby Rock Asphalt Works Limited in the amount of $515,075.33. And you want them both?
No, just that one. And we'll, Councillor Williams and then Councillor Windsor, the questions?
I think Council Winton might have the exact same
No,
question.
that's okay.
Since we just approved the contract for 582 23rd, and they've had issues in the past, are they doing this project at the same time? Do they have enough workers to do both projects?
Well, I don't think we can answer the workers one, but we can answer the timeline ones. I think Craig did, but this is a new project, so.
Thank you for the question. So it is a considerable amount of work that we're considering awarding to one contractor. They did do a $1.2 million job for us last year. With very good success, but there was a lot of outside pressures. So I do believe that they have the capacity to do the work. It's all very similar in style, and it's all very asphalt heavy work. So having a general contractor who's predominantly asphalt and dirt work heavy is playing to our advantage with some of the unit rates, and that's how we see the difference spread between some of the other contractors who maybe don't have that ability to play or work with the pricing that they experience as much as maybe an asphalt heavy contractor can. So at the moment, without seeing their schedules, my expectation is that they will simultaneously be executing all the work. So when they come in to do concrete cutting and asphalt cutting, they'll do all the concrete asphalt cutting that we have in town to do all at the same time. And so they'll work the crew through town. We've got the work on 21st to finish up as well, which will be run through this exact same company. We still got some other tweaks going on with some other operational contracts from last year as well. So they'll be in town and they'll be all over the place if we get awarded all this work. But I do have confidence that at this point in time we can hit the ground running and get it done.
Okay, does that answer your question? Councillor Windsor? Well, the W's should be separated.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to suggest that we need to have a friendly amendment to this motion, because right now, all it includes is Schedule A and Schedule B. It doesn't include Schedule C except for the total number. The total number includes Schedule C, which is the pedestrian crossing. And that's not in the motion.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, either way, whatever works for you guys. If you wanted to do Schedule A, B, and C in the award, that would work too. The reason why it was named.
I'm not suggesting, pardon me, I'm not suggesting to just make it schedules. I'm suggesting that right now, the 515,000 includes the pedestrian crossing improvements, and that's not in the motion.
Okay, Ethan, let's just relax. Take a look at the motion, take a look at the numbers.
Yeah, it might just be a naming of the contract challenge that is present at the moment. When we went out to market, it was named that because those were the highest value schedules to pull contractors towards. And then Schedule C was kind of like this little tack-on piece of work that we put in there. Similar work scope, but a very small valued relative comparison. And so it was just named with the two schedules as being the predominant one. But it does, the contract is named Memorial and Mill and Overlay, and it includes Schedule C. So I don't know if that helps you.
Who made the motion? You made the motion? So you, a friendly amendment to that?
Absolutely, that we include the pedestrian crossing improvements in the motion. Because that is what equals 515 minutes. You hear what you're saying?
And I I certainly understand what Craig said there too, that it did capture it all, but because we're black and white people apparently, let's make sure that is evident. So with that friendly amendment, are there any other comments or questions? We call the vote, all in favor? That's carried.
And that council, amend the 2022 capital budget for the 21st Avenue Memorial Complex Road Storm and Surface Works project to increase it by 24,000 for a project total of 324,000, with the additional cost to be funded from the CCPF grant.
Comments or questions? Call the vote then, all in favor? It's carried. And we have 8.12, temporary utilization of town facilities for filming. Deputy Mayor?
The council approved the temporary use of the old town hall and the train station for filming.
Comments or questions? Councilor Williams?
This is just out of pure curiosity. What type of film? What type of TV show?
It's a secret, but
Can we know that?
Cartoon.
Oh, okay. It's a cartoon. Awesome.
It's a major feature film, it says, doesn't it? It's a major feature film.
We don't want no westerns.
Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. We're not going to use our old fire hall.
You're not using the old fire hall?
We already have approval for that. We're bringing this because
So they are using it, it's just.
So I guess we just wanted to know
we
that.
just are expanding our approval.
Well, we gotta decide what we're doing with that in the future, so it's
Well, that's
important to know.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Good news, so we have the motion.
All in favor?
We'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. We have correspondence, we don't have correspondence information tonight. We have council meeting highlights. And Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Okay, so I've got 5.
No.
What?
No.
No, that's Halloween too.
It's really a toss-up. I'm gonna go with Hope for Mountain View Kids presentation. Learned tonight that the Hope in there was actually a person. I was unaware of that. We've been involved with this organization for quite some time through another organization I'm in, and that was a story that I hadn't heard yet. So they do a very phenomenal service for our entire county, and my hat's off to them. And I thought the presentation was very enlightening.
Thank you for that, Councilor McCoy.
I would say the shopping local that Public Works has done that also inadvertently saved us money.
So the awarding of the contracts to a local company is what you're talking about. Okay. Councilor Baswick?
Well, have to go for Coleman. The coffee company, I think that's a really great addition to our community, and that is, I hope they just knock the walls out going cross country with their product, because it's nice added to industry to our town.
So you can smell coffee everywhere if their walls are knocked out.
Have I
Right?
mentioned I like coffee?
Uh-huh.
No, I was unaware.
Councilor Moore?
I guess I'll go with the pop-up patios. They add joy to our downtown, and I'm so looking forward to them again.
Thanks for that. Councilor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm going to go with reports from our DDAC members, Megan Lee and Brody Kazakis. They were outstanding, and I think that's a really nice addition to our agenda.
Thank you for that. Councilor Williams?
Ooh, this is difficult. There's so many great things.
Don't take mine.
I think Councilor McCoy already said mine. I want to say 582 and 23rd Street, but I think she kind of said that. I think that's a great project, but I'm going to say the town facilities for filming. I think that's awesome to have another film company coming in. Oh, I snuck in two.
You didn't get the first one.
I still snuck in.
You tried.
I know, go last, right? Well, I do want to say, I'm really, our delegations, we've started to focus on groups like Hope for MVC Kids and the Hospice Society coming and Bethany Care coming. I think it's important that we know and get updates from our local groups that volunteer, and volunteers are so invaluable and priceless. So I think bringing all these groups in to get us updated and on task with all they're doing, and of course to support what they're doing. So that will be that for council highlights. And so then we can move on to question period, if anybody has questions, it's in the gallery tonight. If you do, you just would have to come up to our speakers table and state your name and talk about. The agenda was so thorough, there's probably no questions because everybody up here asked them all. So with that, I see no one move forward. I will call for a motion to go to closed meeting. And thank you for coming and sitting through our meetings. Spread out a bit to make it look really busy. Thanks, everyone. A motion?
I'll move that we go to closed meeting.
All in favor? That's carried.
It's off, right?